on his right knee, and that time he could not get away from Mike Finucci, number 68. Had to dump the ball off to Green, who got nothing.
Well, the other quarterback will now punt. That is number 14, Sonny Wade. Wade, a real money player at playoff time, as you've seen in previous playoffs and Grey Cup games. Good charge, gets a fine punt away, aided by the wind. Cates, having trouble with his son, takes it in, and then is taken down right there at the Ottawa 20-yard line. A 43-yard punt, and Cates contained by John Olenchuk. So we'll pause for a moment here. About 3 minutes gone, no score. The Ottawa Rough Riders from the 21-yard line getting set to go in a scoreless Eastern final. The winner to meet the Western champions crowned yesterday the Edmonton Eskimos. This is Richard Holmes out to the 27-yard line. Good for about 6 in the grasp of junior RU, number 77. Montreal with 3 Canadians in the front 4. Glenn Weir, Gordy Judges, and Gabriel Gregoire. The only import is the man who just made the tackle, junior RU.
Bruce Taylor's a man who's had a lot of experience in the National Football League, and going into a game like today, I asked him how he was going to cope with this extra 15 yards width on the field.
Well, there's no doubt about it. It's a longer field than I've ever experienced playing against. But football,
short.
You know, I have to basically get down to covering man for man, and I've done it before in the past, and I intend to do it again today.
Holmes denied the first down near the 30-yard line. It's going to be third down, about a yard and a half. Gordon Judges made that defensive play with his buddy Glenn Weir. There's Gordy, who was in conversation with Russ just before kickoff time today. He's been hurt a lot, but what a competitor. And right now, as they suggest, perhaps the best of the front 4 of Montreal.
And as he said, it's down to the nitty-gritty, and this is what it's all about, playing in the Grey Cup.
Koenig hands it high. Center field area, charging up. Could be a no-yards infraction. Randy Rhino down the sideline. All the way inside the 25-yard line. Art Green made the stop. An alert play by Rhino, who got the big run back. And we suspect a no-yards call against the Rough Riders. There it is.
32-yard return.
Bill Dell, the referee.
We have a no-yard, number 76, and it's declined.
So they'll waive the infraction and take it right there at the 23-yard line. Barnes gives the ball to David Green, hits into the 20-yard line, good for 3.
Green the ball carrier.
Well, again, the one thing that you expect is going to happen with this Montreal club is the fact that they would throw that ball a little bit more against this Ottawa defense, but instead it appears they're going to establish this running game, and that surprises me a little bit because they did take the win in this first quarter.
Chuck McMahon, number 33, has brought a play in from Montreal head coach Joe Scannella. 2nd and 7. Barnes for Bob Gannis, triple coverage, knocked away. Ken Downing was there. It'll go to third down and 7 Alouettes from the Ottawa 20.
Well, on isolation, we see Bob Gaddis, who started out as the flanker on the left side, going down, being pushed by number 32, Larry Cates. The ball thrown just a little bit behind him, and Downing was allowed to catch up with it and knock it down. The fans a little excited here, and this Ottawa defense coming up big early in this first quarter, stopping this first drive of the Alouettes after Rhino's punt return.
It's Don Sweet to try for 3. Jerry DiTilio to hold for him at the 27-yard line, almost straight on. He's there. The Alouettes strike first in the Eastern Final. Don Sweet stakes Montreal to a 3-0 lead as we approach the midway mark in this first quarter.
Don, it's interesting. Sweet did not hit that ball very well, and I'm sure even though the field does look good down there, it is a problem for these kickers. Not only the ball does not sit up if it gets put down in a little hole on that turf down there, but also the foot slides as you step up to kick the ball.
It's just warm enough now. That field, as you say, is getting greasy. Let's perhaps hope it stays warm enough to give us a pleasant afternoon. Those dire forecasts of the weather dropping off proved to be incorrect.
Some of those here at the Ottawa bench thought that was wide. First of all, I can't see how they could tell from this angle. That's just emotion talking, I'm sure.
Clements again from the 35. Gabriel was covered. So was Mike Murphy. He threw it up there, and it went nowhere, of course. Neither man had a chance to make the reception. And at the bench, there's Don Sweet, who has accomplished his initial mission of the day, his initial challenge, giving Montreal a 3-point field goal.
Don, on that last play, trying to set up that screen, Wally Buono was right in there with Murphy and Tony Gabriel and knocked that ball down and the player before he had any chance of receiving it.
It's 2nd and 10. Avery and Stennerson come to the right side, along with Gabriel. The backs all flare out of there as Clements rolls to throw. Gabriel complete, first down, up at the Ottawa 49-yard line.
Well, Tom Clements rolling to the right here now, got good protection. Gabriel, number 62, couldn't get outside to make the contain, and this allowed Tony Gabriel plenty of time to get downfield about 10, 12 yards, and as he took that ball, stumbled out of bounds. Liggins and Judges, we see on that last play, Judges pushing Liggins down, but Granny staying with him and keeping him inside when Clements is rolling out.
That was Ottawa's first down. They go to Richard Holmes through the middle. He threads his way through for about 4 yards in the area of the 53, met by Junior Ayew.
I would think, Don, that one of the problems Granny will have playing offense is to be able to stay in a good stance with his head up in the chest of that on-rushing lineman. In most cases, it'll be Gordon Judges. But that's something just from experience, and Granny not having played there for a few years will face a bit of a problem.
But having not played at all for about 6 weeks.
That's right, but he told me just as he went back out for this sequence, Don, that he felt pretty good. Everything seemed to be working for him.
The fake goes to Richard Holmes. The ball goes out for Clarkson. Reception, first down it'll be at the Montreal 45-yard line. So he beats Vernon Perry to give the Riders another play or series of them here as they're moving now. Midway in the first quarter as the Owls lead 3-0. Ottawa with a promising drive. That first down at the Montreal 45-yard line. It is 3-0. Montreal, 6 minutes and 53 seconds remaining in the opening quarter on a beautiful sunny afternoon at Lansdowne Park. He goes back to Richard Holmes after a fake to him. And Holmes thunders down to the 35. Will be close to a first down. Junior Ayew again, the Montreal tackler. There's the story on the rushing record of Richard Holmes in 1978. He does not yet have the first down as the Alouettes have requested a measurement. He had to be at the 35-yard line.
Don, statistically, that doesn't look like a great year for Richard Holmes. They were a little concerned about his performance here, and they were considering putting Art Green back in that running back spot. But certainly after the great year he had last year, anything would be a letdown. He does not have the first down, and it will be a second. Will Clements go for the big one here and wait for third down to try and get it?
Clements 4 for 5, 37 yards this afternoon. As expected, Ottawa throwing and Montreal mainly relying on the running game. They did try to catch Gaddis once deep in the end zone, but he was well covered.
And Ottawa's wasting quite a bit of time going into this win, this drive.
A keeper by the quarterback, Tom Clements, should give him the first down as he plows ahead for half a yard, and Bill Dell concedes at his first down. There's Granny. Well, he'll get better as he feels more familiar with it, and the old habits and memories come back to him as the game progresses this afternoon.
He's had so much practice playing defense. He knows how those offensive line hold and do all those funny little things.
All you have to do is impersonate one of the guys
right.
you've been battling for years. Stennerson 23 goes left. And that is Mike Murphy, his first carry of the day. Getting down for about 3. Glenn Weir and Gabriel Gregoire there to make the stop for Montreal. So the gain is almost 3 yards. Make it second down and 7. Around the 32-yard line. Too far for him, out of bounds. And it goes to third down, Rough Riders. Clements with that stop and go action. Pumped once, waited, saw Clarkson. Vernon Perry was covering him, giving him a little shot down the sidelines. He wound up out of bounds as the ball did.
That's for sure, Don. As he tried to do the out and down there. Gabriel going down, running the short pattern, but Clarkson did the out and down, and Perry gave him just a little nudge into the sideline and knocked him off stride. He just couldn't get there. And here's a guy with a little bit of pressure on him now. J.T. Hay, who started out so well.
Attempting from the 40-yard line into a wind. It is spraying left, wide. And Rhino kneels down to concede a single point.
And Don, there has to be a lot of pressure on number 5, J.T. Hay. Has not been kicking well lately, and there was a lot of talk in the paper down here that Jerry Organ might be coming back to replace him. And for a rookie, that's got to be difficult.
Maybe that was their way of getting J.T.'s attention with his big game coming up, make him dig in a little harder.
Well, you can also go in reverse, too, and work the opposite way and put a little more pressure on him.
Yes, it can. Well, he went 43 yards in 9 plays, got 3 first downs, but only a single point. So now it goes to Montreal from the 35. Alouettes lead 3-1. 4:20 left of the first quarter. John O'Leary will have a couple. His first carry of the day into about the 37-yard line. Slanting left. Ryan Hedges was there, along with Jim Piaskowski, a defensive end, number 73, as Lamar Leachman, the former defensive coach of Toronto, has words for Wally Buono and Carl Cornell and Tony Proudfoot on the sidelines. Montreal has no first downs in the game that they have earned. They were set up for their field goal by Rhino's punt return. Joe Barnes has Gaddis. Wayne Tosh piggybacks Gaddis down around the 45-yard line. They'll give him the area of the 47, and he'll claim the first down.
Well, Barnes going straight back to throw this on the second down situation. Got pretty good protection because they put everybody to the outside. He moved back up into the pocket. Gaddis had gone downfield and just done a curl in front of number 17, Wayne Tosh. Just far enough for the first down.
Montreal's first today. Barnes for Gaddis again. Oh, he got rocked by Mike Nelms, but he's got a long gainer on the first down at the 29-yard line of the Ottawa Rough Riders, as the Montreal Alouettes have something going here with just under 3 minutes to go in quarter one. We'll be back.
Well, with the score, Montreal 3 and Ottawa 1. Barnes rolled to the outside to his right, just threw the ball over Brune, number 21, and Gaddis made the first down.
From the 29, Barnes gets away from pressure. A flag is thrown. Joe Barnes out of bounds near the 22-yard line. But the indication would be holding by Montreal.
Get it.
Bill Dow will explain the choices to the Ottawa captain.
Hey, Doug.
Here's the call.
Holding, number 5-3.
That is the center, Doug Smith. And that'll roll them back to the 39-yard line, from where the Alouettes will now be first down repeated, but 20 to go.
You don't see Peter Dallariva leave the field very often, but there he goes, very woozy. He was shaken up on that last play.
Dallariva out for attention of the Montreal bench. Chuck McMahon in there to replace him. Number 33. Barnes set wide open. Larry Smith, he overthrew him. He got in behind Mike Downs. Had him beaten, but Barnes, with that wind behind him, just threw it too far.
Well, I'm sure Barnes is a little upset with himself as Larry Smith had broken into the clear over the middle. I'm not sure it was Larry Nelms who was supposed to be covering back there. It might have been Downing. But there we have Ron Fox, number 78, who has had a lot of problems injury-wise late in the season, and he's hurt again and getting some attention. And they're starting to hit each other out there, and it's quite a physical battle. I know Nelms and Gaddis had some words after Gaddis made that catch in this drive.
Well, that's a gamble Brancato made at his choice of linebackers. He decided not to dress Mike Widger. Now Fox limps away. He, Berryman, and Carr are the secondary linebackers. Don Whitman.
Peter Dallariva at the bench had just taken on some oxygen. This is a supply they have at that Montreal bench. He's going to get back in there.
You saw John O'Leary let the ball slip through his hands. The Alouettes are stalled right there at the 39-yard line. Don Sweet makes his second appearance. George Brancato, with a remarkably fine coaching record for the Ottawa Rough Riders, would like to extend that by 2. 1 today, 1 next Sunday.
And he was very uptight late this week concerning this particular ball game, because throughout, I think, the last 3 league games, he was never certain how good his football club was going to perform.
Here's Don Sweet. He'll try from the 46-yard line. He's got that wind behind him, remember. Patilio holding for him. A low line drive misses. Larry Cates in the end zone makes a move to run it out and then gives up the single point. So Montreal is back into a 3-point lead on Sweet's wide field goal. They now lead 4-1 with 1:14 to play in the quarter. A 36-yard drive with 2 first downs for the Alouettes, culminating in only a single point.
Well, you can tell it's not too cold here at Lansdowne Park in the sun just by looking at that, what you see on your screen now.
The Silver Machine. So with the field goal being wide, they get the ball right there at the 39-yard line, the Ottawa Rough Riders. Here is Richard Holmes hitting hard, good drive and momentum. Reaches the 48-yard line. It's going to give him a gain of 7 to 8. Gregoire with a Montreal tackle.
Well, from low angle, Holmes going off tackle, and it's just good second effort here as he gets hit about 3 or 4 yards over the line of scrimmage and carried on for the gain of 8 yards. And a big play for Ottawa, because if they can control this ball through the quarter, they'll turn around with the wind at their back before they have to punt.
Holmes averaging more than 5 a carry, 21 yards today. Fumbles the football. It goes over to the Montreal Alouettes. Gabriel Gregoire coming off. There he is, number 62. Makes the fumble recovery and sets up the Alouettes inside the Ottawa 50.
Now we talked how important it was. Refield position changing ends, and now Montreal get the first big break. Holmes coming off tackle behind Granny Liggins. The play seemed to be a little late starting, and Proudfoot made good penetration through there to turn him back to the inside, forcing the fumble. And Gabriel Gregoire was right there to jump on it.
Montreal from the Ottawa 48. Smith is wide open. Larry Smith cuts to the outside. 15-yard line, taken down at the Ottawa 13. Ken Downing and Mike Nelms finally caught up with him on the final play of the opening quarter. And at the end of the first quarter in the Eastern Final from Ottawa, the score is Montreal 4. Ottawa had the ball more in that first quarter. Montreal did more with it, leading 4-1. They're at the 13-yard line with a first down to begin the second quarter. John O'Leary inside the 10, down to the 5. They'll mark him at the 4-yard line. Tim Berryman tripped him up right there as O'Leary was heading for the end zone.
Well, John O'Leary hasn't had the ball much this afternoon, but a couple of times he's done something with it. That's a second carry for him on the ground, this time carrying the ball in for about 8 or 9 yards and putting the Alouettes inside the Ottawa 5-yard line. But good offensive blocking by the left side of that Montreal line. Joe Scannella doesn't look as happy as he probably feels right now.
He'll be happier if they get in from here. Green stopped for a loss, thrown back. They do not get the first down. They have to be at the 3-yard line. It's going to be 3rd down and a good 2 yards to go. Wayne Tosh forced that play on David Green, made first contact, then got help from Brad Carr, number 42. Ron Fox down once again, the second time he has been shaken up this afternoon. They'll bring in John Glassford to replace him as Jerry DiTilio now, and Joe Barnes have words with head coach Joe Scannella. The injury to Fox giving Scannella a chance to give his instructions to his quarterback. Don Sweet still on the sidelines. Scannella may be thinking in terms of going right here as you see Fox make his way out to the Ottawa bench. The ball just outside the 5-yard line. It's 3rd down and 2.5 to go.
Well, you could probably expect some type of rollout here from number 7, Joe Barnes.
Here it is. Nope, goes back to O'Leary. The question now is, did he reach the 3-yard line and that first down marker?
Well, they went right back with the play that he'd gained 8 on the previous time, and Scannella, they're signaling from the Montreal offense to Scannella that they have the first down, but they're bringing those sticks out.
This is a big measurement right here.
So much depends on where they place that ball.
Well, we'll find out for ourselves. They've got it. First down from inside the 3 for the Montreal Alouettes.
O'Leary going in with the same offensive running play that he gained the 8 yards on first down to give the Montreal team a very important first down, and the first down on the ground this afternoon.
A brand new series of plays from the 3-yard line. John O'Leary denied the goal line. Berryman and Glassford there to fill it in on the right side of the Ottawa defensive wall, along with tackle Brian Hedges.
That Ottawa defense being very stingy down there near the goal line.
John O'Leary, that is his record in 1978. A number of running mates, Ken Starch for a while, but this man David Green has really helped Montreal. Second down. Full house backfield. They stop O'Leary again. I would think the Alouettes might be considering varying the play selection from inside the 5-yard line. That's 4 cracks to John O'Leary. Scannella wants to know, how far do we have to go?
Well, this is Canadian ball, Joe, and it's going to be 1 yard.
1 yard it is.
He's wishing he was still down in Oakland. He's on the 1-inch line.
And one more down.
Well, I'm surprised they haven't tried to get outside against this Ottawa defense, because they're all pinned inside, trying to penetrate. All they can do on the 1-yard line is that.
There's 6 play from inside the 13-yard line on this series. Joe Barnes rolling. And we'll get in for the touchdown. Capping a 48-yard drive. And finally, Russ coming back with a play you suggested about 6 plays ago. Roll action.
Well, I don't know why he didn't do that a little earlier, because the way that Ottawa defense is playing, they're just stopping everything inside, as we saw by so many of those plays. They tried to run inside. This time, rolling to the outside, he puts all the pressure on the defensive backs and the linebackers, and all you need is just the slightest opening to turn it upfield. Even though Barnes doesn't have the mobility here, he just gets the crease, and Berryman, coming from the side, can't make the head-on tackle.
I mentioned the value of David Green. It was number 26 Green directly in front with the block to give him the room to squeeze into the end zone. DiTilio holding for Don Sweet. The point after touchdown is through. And the Montreal Alouettes are into an 11-1 lead over the Ottawa Rough Riders with a good measure of early confidence and momentum here in the Eastern Final from Lansdowne Park. 3:05 gone in quarter two. We'll be right back, but first, let's pause for just a moment.
Don mentioned that David Green went down on this rollout, got knocked down himself, but turned around as he's looking for Barnes, and what he's going to do, stayed with number 21 Brune and did not allow him to get in on the tackle.
A fine block, kickoff against the wind short, coming down to Art Green outside the 25-yard line. Burrow throws the tackle on him just across the 35, and so the Rough Riders will start with an 11-1 deficit, and let's go down to Tom McKee.
A lot of heavy hitting in this football game today, especially on defense. Ask Ron Fox about it. He's in the dressing room right now being attended to. He says some sort of maybe it's a bruise on the outside of his right ankle on the bone there. So he's gone to the dressing room for some repairs, maybe a better tape job before he gets back in.
Tom Clements. Tony Gabriel. Midfield.
Tony Gabriel catching that for 17 yards, getting him up to midfield. Just coming down over the middle, curling in front of the zone defense, and then running through number 23, Tony Proudfoot, and gaining the 17 yards to midfield. Vern Perry finally hitting.
Mike Murphy for about 3 at the Montreal 52, taken down by Gordy Judge's number 75, the Alouettes' fine left defensive tackle. George Brancato has to be concerned about the way Montreal started today's game, much in the manner they finished their final regular season game with a big victory in Montreal over the Riders. They go to 3 down linemen now as Gordy Judges comes out. John Olenchuk, an extra linebacker's in there, number 41. A flag has been thrown. And Olenchuk, who came in, is pretty happy about that sack of Tom Clements, but an official has been hurt. One of the officials, looks like referee Bill Dell, got caught up at the conclusion of that play right where the tackle was made and is down on the field.
Well, the original flag was thrown at the line of scrimmage, and I think Ottawa was probably going to be called for illegal procedure. And as Clements tried to get to the outside, Olenchuk, number 41, showing some good speed, gets out there now, makes the tackle. And then as the official comes over, he seems to twist his ankle as he steps in to get the ball from Tom Clements. It was not actually in the tackle of Tom Clements that he was hurt. He just seemed to slide on that slippery surface there and got his foot caught underneath Tom Clements.
They are calling for a stretcher. I certainly hope that's not necessary, Don.
I think it is going to be necessary, Don. They are calling for the stretcher. The supervisor of officials, Bill Fry, is here, and the backup man almost certainly will have to go into action because it would appear as though this injury is a serious one.
Well, that's unfortunate because it was one of those situations that you can't predict, because as Bill Dell came over, making sure that Tom Clements was not piled on, and he was not. He just seemed to slip underneath Clements and twist the ankle badly, as you saw on that particular replay that we had of Olenchuk making the tackle.
One of those freak accidents, unfortunate as it is.
Well, we'll see it again here now as Bill Dell does come over. Olenchuk is throwing the victory sign up, and just as the official steps in to get the ball from Clements, he seems to just jab his foot in there, and he has hurt himself quite severely.
Bill Dell, a veteran CFL official, in charge of this game this afternoon, will have to have a change made now as an alternate official will join the ranks and a new referee would be appointed if Bill Dell is in fact unable to continue.
Well, Harry Ross is standing here with us in our booth, and he's indicated that Bob Bryant would take over as the referee if Bill Dell is unable to continue.
Yes, Bob Bryant has the black referee's cap on already, and he will be in charge of this game. halftime, we're going to be looking at the All-Star teams in the opinion of the coaches, the head coaches of the CFL. We polled them east and west as to their assessment of the finest players in the country. We'll bring that to you at halftime.
Well, it certainly indicates with Bob Dell being helped off the field, or Bill Dell, I should say, the value of having that standby official. We don't see him used very often, but certainly in a situation like this.
Well, Bill's up now, and he is in conversation with the other officials down there, and maybe he'll continue. Bill Dell walking around trying to shake off that injury, and it looks as though he may be able to carry on, which is good news.
Hey, camera, hey.
And the first thing that has to be dealt with once Dell's recovery is assured is a penalty marker on that last play.
And I think we're going to find that I thought it was illegal procedure, but it's going to be offside. Let's go down to Don Whitman.
Bill Fry, what exactly is the problem?
Well, it looks like Bill got the doctor doesn't really know, but could be a ligament. He's going to try it for 2 or 3 plays. I'm going to be watching him. We have a man ready to go in for him. I hate like hang and take him out.
It looked very serious. It looked as though he was going to have to go off on the stretcher.
He wants to stay in, so I'll give him a couple of tries. He's a willing man and a good man.
His mobility might be somewhat restricted.
Well, I'm going to watch. Thank you, Don.
Well, it appears that he did tear the ligament in the ankle, and he's going to try it for 2 or 3 plays, but it was offside against Montreal, and now we have Ottawa in this second down situation.
Second down, about 2 to go. It is Mike Murphy tumbling over the 45-yard line to claim the Ottawa first down.
I was very surprised at that penalty call, because when it did happen, I thought that Ottawa had illegal procedure. And they call Wally Buono for being offside on that last play prior to Bill Dell being hurt. But he's going to try it. He's going to see whether he can go. If not, they certainly have Bob Bryan ready to come in and replace him.
Line of scrimmage is the 44-yard line of Montreal. Quick toss to Gabriel. Good catch. Drives. That'll be first down, Rough Riders. And marking near the 34-yard line, Tony Proudfoot, number 23, took him down, and here it is again.
Well, Tom Clements just taking about 2 steps back. Gabriel's lined up to the outside as a split tight end. He just slanted into the middle in front of Proudfoot, took the pass, and ran over top. In isolation, he just takes a step downfield. Clements taking a step back, and there it is for the first down.
Murphy, first man through, gets only a couple of yards. But that's enough to keep this drive going. From the 33-yard line, Wally Buono, number 39, the Montreal tackler. The ball's actually at the 32 as we have 8 minutes and 40 seconds to play in the first half. Ron Fox shaken up twice, trying to walk his injury off at the Ottawa bench. This is Jeff Avery. Avery, an immediate first tackle by the newcomer, Bruce Taylor, number 25.
Well, Clements mixing his plays up well now. He's throwing straight drop back. He's getting to the outside. But what I really like what he's doing now, he's getting rid of the ball in a hurry. He's not standing back there. He's trying to hit the short passes now and being very patient with his offense, which is a sign of a good quarterback. He's now 7 for 9 for 76 yards.
The ball between the 19 and the 20 for first down. Clements, complete. Right back to him on the right side. Avery at the 15-yard line. The gain is going to be about 5.
Well, Don, again, being very impressed. They had the blitz on here. Zapek coming right up the middle here. Buono chasing him, but Clements getting back. It called the short pattern, dumped it to the outside, and Randy Rhino was there to make the stop. But very patient with his offense, taking what the Alouette defense will give him.
Second down and 5. Play action out to Richard Holmes. First down at the 5-yard line. They take him down finally at the 3. What the collision between Holmes and Jim Burrow. He drove him an extra 2 or 3 yards downfield.
Well, Clements doing everything here. This time he faked to Holmes, looked downfield, and Holmes went out in the flat. He was just sort of a release valve, and Holmes turned on the steam here, and we had quite a collision between Perry and Holmes. Then Burrow, number 16, came over there, but that was great running and great play calling.
First down from the 2. This is Richard Holmes for the touchdown.
Richard Holmes taking the handoff, and there was no one there. He put his head down as though he was going to run into somebody, but didn't have to, and stumbled over the goal line, actually. No one even touched him, and they're running over Granny Liggins and Jim Coote on that right side, doing a good job.
Holmes brings the Riders to within 4, and J.T. Hay will attempt to make it a 3-point difference right now, and he does. 6 minutes and 46 seconds until the half, and it's 11-8.
Again, you'll see Holmes going in there. There's quite a hole as he goes through there. They collapse that Montreal defense down, and Tony Gabriel very happy.
The largest playoff crowd in Ottawa's history, over 31,000, has come alive. Holmes capping a 72-yard scoring drive, and so it's 11-8 for the Alouettes. We'll be right back after this brief pause. Well, referee Bill Dell tried a few plays to get himself together in that injury to come around, but it hasn't worked out. I think he's taken himself out of the game. Bill will be going into the dressing room. There he goes now, number 25, and Bob Bryan will take over as the referee of this game. We'll try to get further word for you on Bill Dell. Right now, we're watching J.T. Hay get set to kick off for the Ottawa Rough Riders.
And this crowd is starting to come alive for the first time this afternoon.
Hay pounding it down. David Green, the 20-yard line. Still battling, but they have him around the 24. Fournier was there, along with Downing, and then some other support came up to stop a 22-yard return right there at the 24-yard line.
Richard Holmes, who just scored that touchdown and very instrumental in the last 2 plays for that Ottawa drive, going 72 yards and getting the first touchdown for Ottawa this afternoon and getting this crowd in a rather festive mood right now.
I was talking to
Bob Sugden, Jim King, and Chuck Paul, the other officials now with Bob Bryan, who's taken over as referee. It's 11-8 Montreal, just over 6 minutes remaining in the second quarter. Joe Barnes to David Green, and Downing hits him at the 30-yard line. That's a gain of 5.5. Piaskowski also there as Randy Rhino's in communication with the Montreal spotters booth. Tony Gabriel chatting up with the Ottawa bench, as he often does. A real fire guy, as the Riders feel they've got some momentum going now with that late touchdown by Holmes. And in trouble. That was Ron Fox, back twice from injuries to make the sack of Joe Barnes. And he's still limping around out there, but hanging in.
Don, I think one of the interesting things with this Alouette offense is when Coach Joe Scannella came here at the beginning of the year, he talked pass as far as his offense was concerned. And in the latter few games, he's gone to the run as being the main threat.
So it'll be Sonny Wade getting set to punt now as the Alouettes are 3rd and 9 from their 25-yard line. Cates and Nelms 10 yards apart. Waiting for Sonny Wade's effort. The short man, Cates, center field. And he hits down to the 50-yard line of Montreal. I'd like to remind you that great plays of Grey Cup games the last 8 years make exciting football viewing. CBC's got a 90-minute special called Grey Cup Replay of the 70s next Saturday afternoon. Join Tom McKee for Grey Cup Replay next Saturday as part of CBC's complete Grey Cup weekend coverage.
And there have been some great plays, Don, over that last 7 or 8 years.
Ottawa for the Montreal 50-yard line. Gabriel heading right along with Mike Murphy. Up to Gabriel. Got it. Good catch. Lunging catch by Tony Gabriel near the 43-yard line. Tony Proudfoot contained him. The gain is going to be 7 yards.
Well, we've talked so much in the last couple of possessions of the Ottawa Football Club how Clements is making great play selection and being very patient with his offense. Again, it shows here going to Gabriel on the outside, taking the 7-8 yards on first down and putting the Alouette defense in the guessing situation on the second downs.
Watson left, Avery right. Holmes and Murphy set. Clements to throw. His receiver, one of them got bumped down. Tony Gabriel, the ball went nowhere.
Well, I think there was a little miscommunication there in terms of that particular play. Granny Liggins waiting in the huddle there for the punt team to come on. A little communication problem. And we thank you. Liggins doing a pretty good job there on Judges. He gets knocked down, but he does a pretty good job with his legs in getting number 75 to come with him.
Oh, Granny can still play.
He'll play till he's 50.
They're going to try a 50-yard field goal by J.T. Hay, and it is going to be well short. Hitting down about the 3-yard line for Rhino in the end zone, and he'll say, take one. They do. And it's now 11-9, Montreal over Ottawa with just over 3 minutes until halftime.
On that field goal attempt indicated one thing, and that is that the sun is really a major problem out there.
There was a penalty marker thrown, Russ. Sun is always tough here at Lansdowne Park this time of the afternoon. So there was rough play against Montreal.
Well, the question will be, when did the rough play take place? If it took place after the fact, then it still will be Montreal's ball, but it will be moved back from the initial point where the ball was kicked from. So there is a discussion going on out there, but that sun is bad here.
Coming out. It looks as though the Alouettes may get the football.
Well, I'm sure the penalty was after the play and not during the initial attempt to kick the field goal.
Apparently, Chuck Zapek gave Tony Gabriel quite a shot, and that is the infraction that the officials saw. But it would have to be, I would assume, as you say, after the actual attempted field goal, which resulted in 1 point.
But you can see by the length of the shadows of the players standing there with the officials finding out what has happened, how bad that sun can really be, so that when you are at this east end of the field, you do have problems in receiving the punts or kickoffs.
Now, they'd be entitled to the ball at the original point of last scrimmage on the field goal attempt of 43. They take off 15 from there, so Montreal will start back at the 28, and the score is 11-9.
That's very good mathematics, Mr. Chevrier.
Usually I leave that to you.
I wish I had a lot of time to figure that one out.
That's the key. Barnes decides to run with it. And he hits up around the 40 and could have a first down. Mike Raines and Ron Fox again in on the tackles for the Ottawa Rough Riders. And they confirm it is first down.
That Ottawa defense is not giving Joe Barnes too many receivers to throw to. Doing a pretty good job forcing them out as Joe Barnes is heading to the sideline. But at Lansdowne Park here, late in this second quarter, we have the score 11-9 for the Alouettes, and we'll be back.
There's the Alouette record in 1978. Right now, an 11-9 lead they have. The ball first down on their possession from their 40-yard line. It's been Joe Barnes all the way. Dumps it out to a surprise Peter Dallariva. And Dallariva gets only maybe a yard. He was hit by Ron Fox, again playing exceptionally well on a bad leg this afternoon. as the Riders are putting up all sorts of banners, their fans are, to take care of those Alouettes, who are a lot larger than portrayed right there. It's Montreal's first pass this quarter. If you want to compare how they're doing, on first down, Clements has passed 8 times out of 14 chances. Of course, first down is the one where you may surprise your opponents. If you don't get very much the first time, they're looking for it on second down. Big rush, and down goes Barnes. Mike Raines, Mike Panucci, Jim Piaskowski all there.
Well, Mike Raines and Mike Panucci playing a few games outside here, with Raines going well to the inside, and Panucci was left all alone coming from the outside with Pat Bonnet, number 50, unable to get over and block. And you can see Pat Bonnet standing there saying, "I'm sorry, Joe, I didn't mean it."
A helpless feeling for a blocker when that happens. It's third down and 19. Wade has to face the sun to field the snap. Here comes the charge. Not a good kick by Sonny. Midfield for Larry Cates. And Cates hits down to the 52-yard line of Montreal. Only a 25-yard punt that time. It was John Olenchuk with the tackle. 1:44 until halftime. The Riders will have one more series right here.
Well, a standing ovation for this Ottawa defensive club, who played very well. Even the touchdown they did give up when Barnes ran in from the 1-yard line. They were very stubborn down there inside their own 5-yard line.
Clements, a quick toss to Peter Stennerson. Zapek is there to hit him around the 43-yard line, along with Tony Proudfoot. And they'll be within about a yard of the first down. A yard and a half. 1:35 left in the first half. 11-9, Montreal over the Rough Riders. Number 79 at the bench, Big Mike Raines. Montreal with 4 linebackers in there. Mike Murphy slips through, gets the first down at the 38. He got past Olenchuk, and Burrow made the stop for the Alouettes.
Don, I'm really surprised that on that 2nd and 1 situation that the Alouettes stayed with 3 down linemen and 4 linebackers, because that's usually the time when you will make that substitution, put the 4th down lineman in. And now on first down, they put Gordon Judges back in place of number 41, John Olenchuk. But on a 2nd and 1, you expect them to go with the 4 down lineman.
Minute flag is now up. Richard Holmes barely staying on his feet, tilting forward, hits the 35-yard line for 3. It was Wally Buono who stopped him. He almost stopped himself with that forward momentum of his on the angle with 56 seconds remaining in the first half. So we are really no better off in terms of knowing the Eastern champion at the close of halftime than we were at the outset. They're 2 points apart. Clements dumps it out the screen to Murphy. No blocking for him. He's taken down at the line of scrimmage. There'll be no gain. It was Tony Proudfoot who made the stop. He was out there. He was the escape man, but nobody with him. Clements 11 for 14, 108 yards so far in this game. And his prime target has been Tony Gabriel with 5 receptions for 49 yards. This could give Ottawa the lead before the half. It'll be Hay from the 42-yard line. Kunick holding for him. It's wide. Rhino will bring this one out at the 10. A great run back by Randy Rhino.
Look out.
Trying to maintain his balance. He's all the way back to the 41-yard line. Gabriel finally got him, but only 5 seconds remain until the end of the second quarter. But Randy Rhino, who I think was, well, more liable to concede a point, decided to go with this one.
Well, with so little time left, Don, I think the instructions were to get the ball up, because even if you got to the 1-yard line, they'd be able to maintain possession to the end of the half and not give Ottawa that extra point. But he's been doing this forever. Gregoire actually almost tripped him up there, and Tony Gabriel did catch him from behind. But the trademark of Rhino all year has been when they need the big run back, he gives it to them, just as he showed us there.
51 yards that time. Time for maybe just the one play for Montreal. Barnes not too eager to make a play. And there's Piaskowski in there slugging somebody. The officials move in to separate them. They have 2 seconds on the clock. It appears as though the Alouettes are content to end the half the way it is, with a 2-point lead. There's no penalty called in that last mix-up. Loss of 5 at the 36-yard line makes it 2nd down and 15. Doesn't really matter, though. Barnes is going to ground the ball. So that is it. Your first half of the Eastern Final has been completed. A touchdown apiece. The Alouettes have the lead. At the end of the first half, the score: the Montreal Alouettes 11 and the Ottawa Rough Riders 9. Well, the Ottawa Rough Riders came back with a certain amount of drive late in that second quarter, and these teams are just 2 points apart. Hard to pick a winner. Hard to pick all-star teams, too. Perhaps the people best qualified are the coaches, the head coaches. We went east and west and asked them what they thought, who they thought the all-stars should be. Let's begin in the Western Division.
We start the Western offensive team with no great surprise, as the coaches picked BC Lions' Al Wilson at center. He was last year's lineman of the year, a great Canadian player, started as a backup guard in '72, later moving to center. At guard on each side of Wilson, the Saskatchewan Roughriders' Ralph Galloway and Calgary's Harold Holton. Another Stampeder, Lloyd Fairbanks, is the all-star tackle, along with Butch Norman of Winnipeg. Willie Armstead of Calgary gets the nod at tight end. He finished the regular season with 9 touchdowns, including the longest in the CFL this season, a pass and run play for 101 yards. Waddell Smith from Edmonton was voted all-star wide receiver. Smith has good speed, 4.65 for the 40 yards. This was his second year with the Eskimos. Patterson of the Blue Bombers makes the coach's all-star team at wingback. Another fine Canadian player, Patterson finished second in the CFL pass receiving department with a total of 69 catches. Again, there are no surprises when it comes to all-star running backs in the Western Conference. James Sykes of Calgary had a great year, rushing for over 1,000 yards on 204 carries, catching an even 50 passes, and was the top non-kicker in scoring in either conference, 15 touchdowns for 90 points. Along with Sykes, the coaches chose super rookie from the BC Lions, Larry Key. His first direct contact with Canadian football was in the first Can-Am College Bowl. He later joined the Lions and proved himself with these statistics: 20 kickoff returns, 48 pass receptions, 1,054 yards rushing, and 10 touchdowns for 60 points. Larry Key of the BC Lions. The Western Conference coaches reached a saw-off in voting for the all-star quarterback. Ralph Brock of Winnipeg has the best record in passing, throwing almost 500 times this year with a .598 completion record. His longest completion was 90 yards, total yardage 3,755, and 23 touchdowns. And Tom Wilkinson of Edmonton shared the all-star honor with Brock, and justifiably so. He threw fewer passes, but had a .606 average. Wilkinson threw 20 passes for major scores, but his most important statistic was guiding the Eskimos to first place in the Western Conference regular season. In the Eastern Conference, the All-Star Center was chosen by the coaches as Henry Waszczuk of Hamilton Tiger Cats. Although only 4 years a pro, Waszczuk proved a mainstay in a shaky year for the Tiger Cats. The All-Star guards in the East are Frank Palmerico and Charlie Brandon, both of the Ottawa Rough Riders. Brandon, incidentally, was the unanimous choice. Jim Coode of the Rough Riders was also a unanimous choice. He's joined as All-Star tackle by Dan Yoakum of the Montreal Alouettes. Interesting to note, the Argos were shut out along the front line. Moving to tight end, Tony Gabriel of Ottawa, as expected, got all the votes here. The coaches also named him the most valuable offensive player. Gabriel had another 1,000-yard season, 1,070 to be exact, on 67 receptions. He recorded 11 touchdowns. Hometown favorite Jeff Avery was named on all the coaches' ballots as the East's top split end. A product of Ottawa University, Avery was third in receiving, 50 catches, 767 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Ottawa's dominance of the Eastern Conference Stars continues with Art Green voted the best wingback. Green, some felt, might have had a better year, but obviously the head coaches would take him any day. The flanker position goes to Bob Gaddis of the Alouettes, who chalked up a record of 814 yards on 45 catches. He had 3 touchdowns. Average gain was 18 yards. That was the best of the East's top 15 receivers. In the backfield, Mike Murphy, another product of Ottawa U, was the only across-the-board choice at fullback. The coaches had trouble making a definite choice for the halfback job. As a result, Jimmy Edwards Hamilton, Terry Metcalf Toronto, Richard Holmes Ottawa, and John O'Leary Montreal all share the honor. The coaches had it easy in picking the all-star quarterback. Actually, we say quarterbacks, because the Ottawa pair of Condredge Holloway and Tom Clements were shoe-ins. They were the best passers percentage-wise in the CFL. Clements recording his 636 mark and Holloway 617. Together, they passed for 29 touchdowns, again tops in either conference. Of the 12 positions, Ottawa players were named to 8, Montreal had 2, Hamilton 1, and all 4 teams shared 1 position.
An outstanding first half of the Eastern Final here at Lansdowne Park in Ottawa is over, and in just a moment, Russ Jackson brings you the highlights of that first half.
In transportation, as in architecture, there is always a new way we express ourselves. Oldsmobile's expressions of full-size cars, Delta 88 and Holiday 88. Luxury cars with quiet comfort, and both may be equipped with an available V8 diesel. Holiday 88, a sporty feel with the generous room of a full-size car. Delta 88 and Holiday 88. Have one built for you.
Well, here at Lansdowne Park, this Eastern Final, Russ, a long way from being decided. I know one definite edge Montreal had coming in was Don Sweet in the placement game. The other edge, I think, is Randy Rhino, you'll agree, in terms of punt returns.
Well, Randy Rhino twice this afternoon has got away. Early in the first quarter, he took a punt where Ottawa was called for no yards and returned that 32 yards to set up the field goal. But he shows the second effort. He's got that drive and ability to get the extra yards for you. And late in the game, he almost broke one after Hay missed a field goal from about 5 yards deep in his end zone. And he does give them an advantage in returning those punts. He seems to be able to find the open area when no one else can.
They're deep throughout the Alouettes, this is. Bob Gaddis, of course, and they got to him a couple of times effectively, and he's one the Riders will have to watch in the second half, too.
Well, the Ottawa defense got set up in a zone, and Brune had the short zone on this particular play, and Nelms was deep. And getting outside number 78 is always a job, but Bonnet did a pretty good job. And you'll see Gaddis making the catch just behind Brune and in front of Nelms, who put a pretty good hit on him. But what happens is they get caught in that particular zone where if Barnes gets outside, he gets a chance to find the slot in there. Nelms has been pushed deep by another receiver, couldn't get up quite in time to make the hit.
You know, a guy who game after game and year after year makes a big play for the Alouettes as a receiver is Larry Smith. They don't go to him very often, but once in a while they'll work on Smith, and boy, he'll come through for you.
Well, they tried this play previously in the first quarter, and he was open for a touchdown, and Barnes missed him over the middle. I don't know where the linebackers were there. Fox, who's been having some injury problems, might have had the coverage because he was the closest man to him, and it took Downing to come over and make the hit on him. And this was the last play of the first quarter, and after many more tries from inside the 5-yard line, trying to run over the middle, Barnes on a 3rd-and-1 situation finally sprinted to the outside, turned it upside, and Berriman, number 41, who couldn't get the head-on hit, had to make the tackle from the side, and Barnes fell in. But it was the catch by Smith, who they go to sometimes when they're in trouble, that made the big play for them late in that first quarter.
Russ, that was the test, I think, for Ottawa right there. They'd fallen behind 11-1, and they had to come up with something, and they did. Got a good drive together. Richard Holmes capped it by scoring Ottawa's touchdown.
Well, I think the patience of Tom Clements showed here because He'd thrown the ball on first down many times. They're on the 3-yard line. Holmes had just caught a pass to get them there with second effort to make the first down and carried in behind Granny Liggins. And Art Green got a real good block as well on that play. But the patience, I think, was really important.
All right, a good first half. We'll be right back with the second half for you in just a moment. Well, there's another of many messages on behalf of the Alouettes, and certainly Montreal being so close to Ottawa, they've got supporters here in great numbers this afternoon to cheer their team on in this Eastern Final. The question is, will it be a replay of the '73 Grey Cup game, Ottawa and Edmonton, or the Grey Cup games of 1974 and 1975, 77 last year at the Olympic Stadium between the Eskimos and the Montreal Alouettes? We're about to find out in the closing 30 minutes of this game this afternoon. And here's how they compare to the first half. In terms of total offense, Ottawa had a big edge. In terms of passing, of course, again, as expected, the Ottawa Rough Riders had the edge. And yet, I'm surprised at the Montreal ground game. They like to run a little bit more effectively than the 38 yards they got in the first half.
John, I think that's a change in the philosophy of Coach Joe Scannella. He wanted to throw the ball early in the season and build his offense around that type of attack. Because of injuries, I'm sure, and number of receivers they've had to change with the quarterback problems they've had all year, they've had to go to the running game. But Ottawa has done a good job in stopping the running game, because that was one thing we felt that Montreal might have. With Green and O'Leary, they might have the advantage in that particular area, but they certainly haven't shown it this afternoon.
Well, they both got some pretty solid quarterbacking from Barnes for Montreal and Clements for Ottawa in that first half. Right now, let's go down to Tom McKee.
Well, Chef, I think you'd agree with me, as Mike Widger will too, that this is certainly a titanic battle when it comes to defense. Right, Mike?
Well, I'll tell you, it's what everybody said it was going to be. It's a tough contest. We're going to give them the wind and the ball here in the third period so we can get the wind in the fourth. Hopefully, our defense will come up big and hold them here.
Okay, they're just going out on the field, so we got a second. Lauren, do you see anything out there that surprises you?
Well, the only thing they did that surprised us, I think, a little bit was they ran back away from the trip side. They ran back to the weak side with O'Leary. They hadn't been doing that in the past, so that's about it. Everything else is the same as they played all season.
Be a little warmer, a little more to your liking to be on the field.
Yes, it would be.
Now, hang in there, Mike. Thank you very much.
Just about ready for the second half at Lansdowne Park. Don Chevrier with Russ Jackson, Tom McKee, and our guest from the West, Don Whitman, today. He'll be with us, of course, a week from today, Grey Cup afternoon in Toronto for complete coverage on CBC television of the big one. There's the win factor, and the Alouettes have been given the ball and the wind here in the third quarter. The Riders counting on the win for them in the fourth. David Green and Randy Rhino back at the 10-yard line for Hayes' kickoff. Back near the 5 for David Green. Green shopping for room, can't find much, and takes it up near the 23-yard line. The first shadows of the afternoon begin to descend on the west end of Lansdowne Park now. That was a 17-yard run back. Dan Fournier supplied the tackle on the play. And it's going to be first down from near the 24-yard line for Montreal.
Don, I'll be interested to see if Montreal changes their strategy a little bit. They have not had that much offense, and they have not been throwing the ball on first downs. And will Coach Joe Scannella be happy to think his defense can win the game for him and just let the offense continue to do as they did in the first half?
As you see, a high completion percentage for both quarterbacks today. This is Joe Barnes to David Green. And Green got tracked down by big number 68, Mike Finucci. He will lose 4 on the play. It's going to be second down and 14. The attendance here has been announced at just under 32,000, 31,000. Yard run back. Dan Fournier supplied the tackle on the play, and it's going to be first down from near the 24-yard line for Montreal.
Don, I'll be interested to see if Montreal changes their strategy a little bit. They have not had that much offense, and they have not been throwing the ball on first downs. And will Coach Joe Scannella be happy to think his defense can win the game for him and just let the offense continue to do as they did in the first half?
As you see, a high completion percentage for both quarterbacks today. This is Joe Barnes to David Green, and Green got tracked down by big number 68, Mike Finucci. He will lose 4 on the play. It's going to be second down and 14. The attendance here has been announced at just under 32,000, 31,960, as we say the largest crowd ever to attend a playoff game in the stadium.
Well, if we add the 2 football teams, we've got over 32,000.
Not to mention the press box, which is bulging this afternoon.
That's right.
At the seams. Long throw, too far for John O'Leary. Flaring out of the backfield with good speed, but even he couldn't catch up with that wind-assisted throw by Joe Barnes. And it's almost that time, folks. I didn't know that Santa was a Rough Rider fan.
I was just going to say, he's not unbiased at all. I wonder what he's going to pull out of his pocket. It's a candy cane.
Well, the Riders aren't giving away anything, no matter what he's handing out. 11-9 is the score for the Alouettes. We are just into the 3rd quarter, and now, bear in mind, these punt returners must look up into the sun. Cates, in particular, back at the 45-yard line, shielding his eyes for this punt from Sonny Way. Here it comes, out of the shadows, into the sunlight. And is caught by Cates. And he's caught by Ian Mofford at the 48-yard line. Our congratulations go out to the players, the executive of the Edmonton Eskimos for their Western Conference Championship win yesterday. And our congratulations to Jack Goda and the Calgary Stampeders for a tremendous finish to the season for them.
And seeing Coach Jack Goda after the game, how emotional he was and almost breaking down crying, you just know how he had his team ready for that game yesterday.
And you know they'll be back in 1979. Here is Mike Murphy, slanting left, getting about 5.
Mike Murphy, the ball carrier. Weir in the tackle.
It's Glenn Weir, number 64, supplying the stop that time. It's going to be second down and about 6. That was a 4-yard gain.
Well, Sonny Wade warming up the Alouette bench, and we might see him later in this half, although he might just be keeping loose because it is rather cold down there as that sun starts to go down, and he never knows when he'll be called on to possibly play.
Avery on the right side with Gabriel, Clarkson left. Now Stenderson moves right. Second down play, Clements way back, over the middle, wide open is Richard Holmes. First down, Rough Riders.
Don, the Ottawa Football Club just continuing to do what they did in the first half so well, and that is Tommy Clements throwing the short passes. He hasn't thrown deep at all today. He's content to throw that ball 8-10 yards downfield, hopefully that they will be able to get the first down. And Richard Holmes, who started as a setback, just came out of the backfield underneath the linebackers and carried for the 17-yard, 18-yard gain.
He'll carry it along the ground this time, but not very far. Middle of the Montreal defense stacked up there to meet him. Here's Carl Crennel, number 72, with some help from his friends. We have 3.5 minutes gone in the 3rd quarter. It is 11-9, Montreal over Ottawa. The referee of this game, in case you missed it earlier, Bill Dell, suffered a leg injury, had to leave the game, and is given away to Bob Bryan as the referee-in-chief. Second down, 7.5. Clements, a super extension of Tony Gabriel. Even that was insufficient to bring that ball in. It's going to be 3rd down now.
Don, you have to feel the way the momentum of this game is going that the Ottawa Football Club offensively is moving the ball. And even though they're behind 2 points, you have the feeling that they are taking over this particular ball game because the Alouettes have not been able to move the ball at all, even though they have scored that touchdown. It was set up by a fumble, and then that one long pass to Smith.
They're going to punt because they have 2 things against them, the wind and the recent performance of J.T. Hay with field goals. This one hangs up to Randy Rhino around the 5-yard line. Rhino is contained early. When you contain him, you've done something. Ray Honey and Art Green there to meet him. They limited him to a 2-yard gain after a 33-yard punt. All right, we have just over 4 minutes gone now in the 3rd quarter. Montreal leads at 11-9, and we'll be right back. previous baseball telecasts on CBC, you've seen the chicken from San Diego. Here's the claws from Ottawa as the Alouettes come out. Green got rocked into open country. And finally, Tosh has him up around the 20-yard line. But the initial hit and David Green simply allowed him to continue to the outside. Bob Gaddis is receiving some attention now. We might see who made first contact with him.
Bouncing to the outside here, he turns it upfield, and it's actually Downing who misses the tackle here. He thinks he's got him all lined up. He doesn't quite make the tackle. He stumbles along, and even though he's been knocked off stride, he hits Tosh pretty well.
There's John O'Leary being contained by number 41, Tim Berryman, the middle linebacker for the Ottawa Rough Riders. The ball near the 30-yard line, or the 25-yard line, where it's going to be 2nd down and 6 now after a 4-yard gain. This yard marker is becoming a little more visible than they were certainly in the first half when they were completely wiped out by the sun. There's Peter Delariva. Ron Fox puts the tackle on him at the 42, but not in time to prevent a Montreal first down. The gain was 17 yards. The Riders have certainly gone to their tight end, Tony Gabriel, much more frequently than the Alouettes have gone to theirs, Peter Delariva, today.
Well, let's go down to Don Whitman.
Gaddis injured his shoulder in throwing that block for Green coming around the corner. It was just a bruise, nothing much more serious. He's back in there.
Well, Downing has O'Leary up at the 50-yard line. That's going to be a gain of 8. Speaking of Delariva and the infrequency of opportunities for him this afternoon, only 2 catches for Peter so far. Gabriel has caught 5. Joe Scannella now with a 2-point lead, hoping his team can maintain this drive on 2nd down and 2. And they will, as John O'Leary claims the first down across midfield to the Ottawa 54-yard line.
Well, Don, just when I talk about that Ottawa offense holding all the momentum, this Alouette offensive club, after that run by David Green down from about the 6-yard line, has moved this ball well, especially that pass to Peter Delariva, where he caught Ron Fox in a man-to-man situation, and Fox, suffering with some leg problems, just couldn't chase Delariva all across the field.
Here's something new. Granny Liggins has come in to play defense for Brian Hedges, so Liggins in his comeback attempt is going 2 ways today. Screen toss out to David Green. He's quick. Look out. Green should have the first down in the area of the 43 to 44-yard line. Jim Piaskowski made the containment for the Ottawa Rough Riders. There's considerable pressure on the Ottawa defense to stop the Owls now, and on the Montreal offense to score in this quarter while they have the win, because if it maintains its current velocity, it'll be a big bonus for Ottawa in the 4th quarter.
Well, Granny now playing that defensive tackle spot, going to be put to the test if he has to play that offensive guard spot, if they do continue to use him on defense. As we see him on isolation, trying to get into this screen pass, takes a couple of hits and tries to get outside to help with the tackle. But if he has to continue to play defense, the question will be, will they put either Honey or McGee in at the offensive guard position in his particular place? And they do have the first down. The Alouettes continuing this drive.
Well, Granny has got to feel a little more at home on defense, considering where he's played the last number of years. Joe Barnes, with a good drive going here, is now 8 for 10 on the day and 103 yards. John O'Leary slithering through to about the 37-yard line, leaving him 3 shy of the first down. A good variety, good selection of plays being executed by Joe Barnes at this stage, which is the midway point in the 3rd quarter. And there's your CBC television next Saturday afternoon. A big Grey Cup weekend coming up for you right here. David Green again. Cracked down hard as he reached the 30-yard line by Ken Downing. A super hit Downing threw on him, but it did not prevent the Montreal first down.
Well, in the 9th play in this drive from the 8-yard line, David Green runs off tackle, and that Montreal offensive line is opening big gaping holes in that Ottawa defense. They seem to have the defense off balance, and we have Brian Hedges, number 53, coming back in to replace Granny Liggins, who came in to play that defensive tackle spot for a few plays, but that wasn't the answer with this Alouette team just continuing this drive.
There's Granny. Montreal looking more effective along the ground right now than they have all afternoon. Green again. Good opening, makes the most of it. Hits down at the 21-yard line. 9-yard carry, and they've got to find a way soon to contain this man, David Green.
Well, Coach Joe Scannella very happy with what's happening out there, because certainly, as we found out now, the game plan is to run that ball and hope that our offensive line can open the holes and our defense can hold the Ottawa particular offense. That time, Yoakum and Watman got out and pushed Brad Carr 15 yards downfield, the linebacker we talked about earlier in the show.
You're right. The Montreal plan is to run. They've thrown fewer than a dozen passes to this point. The 10-minute mark almost in the third quarter. Along the ground again. Green, well, they had him by one leg, and he needs 2 to run. They finally stopped him as it appeared he might get away back at the 26-yard line. It was Jim Piaskowski there with the first hit, and he'll lose about 6 yards in that play.
Well, the same play coming over this left side of the Alouette offense behind Dan Yoakum and Ray Watman. Green just unable to get the ball in time to make the break here as he comes off tackle. The penetration by Piaskowski piles it up there, and Carr is there to help. But Piaskowski did a good job in penetrating to make sure Green had no place to go.
Here is Don Sweet. He'll try for 3 from 33. Larry Cates, the lone defender in the end zone for the Rough Riders. This could give Montreal a lead of 5. And that is the situation as Don Sweet comes through. Montreal with a 14 lead over the Ottawa Rough Riders. We have just under 5 minutes, 4 minutes and 54 seconds remaining in the third quarter.
But Don, one of the big things that's happened in that last drive, it's proven to the Montreal Alouette offense that they can move the ball, because they had not been able to do that in the first half with any consistency. And that drive from their 8-yard line to the Ottawa 33 has to give them a psychological lift.
They went 76 yards on it and only threw twice out of 11 plays. Sideline to Jeff Avery, and that'll give the Rough Riders their first down at the 50-yard line of Ottawa. Taylor and Burrow forcing Jeff Avery out after a gain of 15 yards.
You have to know that both of these offenses respect their defenses of the other club, because they have not tested them deep too much. They've just taken what the defense will give them, and I think that's a credit to both coaching staffs and the quarterbacks to be able to stay with a game plan like that.
Mike Murphy got straightened up and finally stopped around the 53-yard line. He'll have about 3 on that carry. Chuck Zapek was the man to meet him.
Bob Ovilovich, an assistant coach with this Ottawa football club, talking to the defensive backs out there, wondering what's happening. Are we not getting up there to help that linebackers and defensive line in all that running game? What are they doing out there to have us sitting back on our heels?
Stenerson moves to the left side now as Clements is getting some pressure. Junior Ayu came in there to close it off, and he got some support from Gabriel Gregoire, the other defensive end. And Clements is in the sack, back at the 44-yard line. The Riders are 3rd down and 16 after a loss of 9.
Well, that doesn't happen too often that you sack Clements this afternoon, because he's throwing that ball in a hurry. That time they got to him, and he's lucky to hang on to that ball. That's the 2nd sack from the end zone. You can play as a defensive lineman. Are you getting in there, putting the initial pressure, then Gregoire and Judges, but he's lucky to hang on to the ball.
Here is Kunig's punt against the wind, not deep, takes a bad bounce in front of Randy Rhino. And they wrap him up right there. That is twice in a row now. The Ottawa specialty team, led by Dan Fournier, has contained the dangerous Randy Rhino on a punt return attempt. 34 yards, the length of that kick. We have just over 3 minutes, 3:13 remaining here in the third quarter. As the shadows descend with more consistency across the playing field at Lansdowne Park, and as that sun sinks lower, so does the temperature.
Well, they're predicting it's going down to 10 or 12 below by late afternoon, so we're going to have to get our coats on pretty soon.
We may be getting out of town just in time. Let's hope it stays warm Grey Cup week. David Green. Piaskowski held him at the 25-yard line, a loss of 8. Brad Carr pursuing, Piaskowski there, and it's going to be second down and 18. Here's where the defensive teams make some big plays. You saw one right there late in this ball game. 2:46 remaining in the third quarter. Don't go away. We'll be back.
Oh, with that first down play, Jim Piaskowski, number 73, just broke the block and went in along with Brad Carr and hit Green for about an 8-yard loss and makes it second and 18 for this Alouette club.
From the 25-yard line, they're on. Joe Barnes is down. The ball did come loose, but Montreal has recovered it. Barnes looked to have some time, and all of a sudden, the Riders were on him. Doug Smith recovered the loose ball.
Well, Joe Barnes initially gets pretty good protection here. A little fake inside to Green, but just as he steps up in the pocket and is about to deliver that ball, number 68, Mike Panucci, came in from his blind side, knocked the ball loose, and as you say, Don, Doug Smith, number 53, was the one who came up with that ball, fortunately for the Alouettes. And we have an Ottawa player down on the ground as the training staff is out there. Tim Berriman, the middle linebacker, is hurt, which means that John Glassford will have to come in, and either Glassford or Brad Carr will move into the middle for this Ottawa defense.
Russ, I think he has a muscle spasm in his right leg. It looks to be that. Same thing that Fox has had from time to time.
Thanks, Tom.
2:27 left in this third quarter. As the Ottawa trainer continues to minister aid to Tim Berriman, he's rubbing a calf muscle just to loosen up some cramp that might have taken him down.
Well, we have a second here. We'd like to pass along word from our friend Saul Smirlik in Hamilton, the annual B'nai B'rith dinner, the 28th annual, coming up January 22nd. Arkansas coach Lou Holtz will be there. Lou Piniella of the Yankees. George Blanda, played so many years in the NFL. Diane Jones-Kanahowski. And the skipper of the Evergreen, Don Green, will also be in attendance. That's in January.
Sonny Wade. Good charge on him from Carr. He almost got there. Good kick with the wind to Larry Cates. And that's all for Cates right there at the 43-yard line of the Rough Riders. A 48-yard punt under, as you saw, a tremendous amount of pressure by Sonny Wade. 2:09 to play in the quarter. It's 14-9 Montreal.
Well, we're starting to get down to that nitty-gritty time, Don, when a big play by either team could make the difference.
And a big weekend coming up next week. CBC will have the Grey Cup Parade for you Saturday afternoon. 90-minute special Grey Cup replay of the 70s. Sunday, our pregame coverage live, then the Grey Cup game. See it all right here on CBC. Richard Holmes to about the 45-yard line will have a gain of 2. Gregoire playing awfully well. A defensive end contained him. As we stated before, 3 of the front 4 are Canadians. Gregoire, Judges, and Weir from Montreal. Junior Ayu, the import exception.
And Junior probably playing as well as he's played all year in the last 2 or 3 games of the season, and playing well out there again this afternoon.
Clements just got clipped by Junior Ayu, and that was enough to lose his balance at the 43-yard line, the line of scrimmage. The 42, he lost one.
Well, what was really important with that defense, Berriman running around behind the bench there, was that all 3 of the defensive linemen, Glenn Weir sitting back for the screen situation, put pressure on Tom Clements. They all should get credit for part of the sack, although it was Ayu who tripped him up.
3rd and 11. Kunik will punt into the wind, perhaps for the last time in this game, because Ottawa will have the wind in the fourth quarter a minute from now. Rhino, if he gets outside, look out. Now a good hit stopped him. Richard Holmes, number 28. Good tackle to limit Rhino to a 7-yard return.
Well, Randy Rhino just getting to the outside. It looks like he's all covered there. But Honey, number 51, didn't put the clamps on him, and he broke to the outside, and Richard Holmes finally got him.
Minute flag up with 42 seconds. The clock moving down now. Montreal, first down. Their 43-yard line. They lead 14-9 late in this third quarter. David Green still fighting up around the 50-yard line. He's a difficult man to contain. It'll be second down and 3.
Well, they try and stack up this offensive line, but instead of that, Green just finds his way through that mass of humanity and finally gets downfield with Brad Carr making the tackle after he gained 7.
David Green again. First down, Montreal at midfield. But when they continue, it'll be the fourth quarter as the gun sounds. And at the end of the third quarter, the score is the Montreal Alouettes 14, the Ottawa Rough Riders 9. The fourth and possibly final quarter of football in the CFL East this year. Montreal for the 55-yard line, leading 14-9. John O'Leary for 5 yards of the Ottawa 50 as Tim Berryman and Jim Piaskowski brought him down. And it's a tribute rush to the Ottawa defense to allow Montreal no more than 3 points with the wind on the Alouette side in the third quarter.
Well, you have to start to wonder how good this defense is going to be now because they're running at them. Berryman's been hurt. Fox has been hurt all afternoon. They haven't been happy, I guess, with the play of Brian Hedges. Granny Liggins had to play, and it may be starting to wear them down a little bit.
Barnes to O'Leary. At the 42-yard line, that's the Montreal first down.
Well, this Montreal offense is starting to nickel and dime this Ottawa defense to death. Nothing sensational, nothing big, but they're maintaining possession of this ball. We have another injured player, this time an Alouette player, down on the ground. It could be John O'Leary. It is. Number 30, John O'Leary, who has just made that first down on the screen pass from Joe Barnes. But as I was saying, Don, it's a nickel and dime type of game, but it's an exciting ball game, especially the way the defenses have rose to the occasion.
Now, O'Leary went back to the huddle, but they set him away. The officials did. He was down with an injury. I think he maybe twisted his ankle, Russ.
Well, just as he goes down here, he's fighting for that extra 2 or 3 yards to get the first down, and as he does go down here, he does get the leg twisted a little bit, and I'm sure he'll be back in the next play.
Put in Ian Mofford, number 10, to replace him on this play. Green slanting and then hitting inside. And gets 5 yards out of that play, all on his own initiative.
Well, you have to start to wonder again, Don, how much pressure this running game has put on that Ottawa defense and just how good they're going to be in this fourth quarter, because the tackle should have been made at the line of scrimmage. Instead, he bounced off and went downfield for the gain of 5.
Not much to choose between these two, with Ottawa holding a slight edge in terms of total net offense. But right now, Montreal moving, hoping to at least get close enough to give Sweet a chance to give them a lead of more than a touchdown. They lead by 5 right now. Green cuts inside away from tacklers at the 30-yard line. It'll be a first down. Brian Hedges and Ron Fox finally stopped him, but David Green has been a big, big factor for the Montreal Alouettes this afternoon.
Oh, he just made a cut Ella Jimmy Edwards. He turned that thing back inside and made that first down all by himself because the blocking was not really out in front of him, and he just turned it upfield that time, gaining his 14th carry for 44. Right about here, low angle. He's going to turn it right back there, turns it upfield, makes the first down.
Flags fly as O'Leary back in, has 5 yards, has about 8. Brad Carr took him down. But we have 2 penalty markers down. That's the first penalty infraction thrown in this half.
And we had 2 of them down, Don, at different times, so we've had double penalties here. Very important. It looks from the Ottawa viewpoint it's going to go against the Alouettes.
Now the officials, led now by referee Bob Bryan, replacing Bill Dell, who was injured in the first half, have some sorting out to do. It is holding against Montreal. So just the 1 penalty, holding, but it drives the Alouettes back from a good gain.
Now we know why that offense has been going so well. Not really. That offensive line has just been doing an outstanding job keeping this running game going, but that is a big play, making a 1st and 20 rather than possibly a 2nd and 5 situation.
Well, I guess they've been doing it legally until now. 14-9, Montreal leads. 1st and 20 from the 40. Oh, wide open is Bob Gaddis. Ottawa 10-yard line. A big play right there. He got in behind Larry Cates, beat him cleanly for 31 yards.
Well, Don, this is exactly the same play he caught in the first half. This time he's going to the left instead of the right, and with Ottawa in that zone defense, if they give him enough time, number 32 Cates has the short zone, number 17 Wayne Tosh has the deep zone. Tosh is being pushed deep, and he just gets in between the 2, and the ball was thrown perfectly.
These guys want some help from their mother in Halifax. The Ottawa Rough Riders need some help from themselves right now to contain the Montreal Alouettes to a first down at the Riders' 10-yard line. Steps up, keeps it, touchdown Montreal! A quarterback draw. The last thing I suspect the Riders were looking for.
Well, after you've had the long pass against you, everybody's a little upset, a little uptight. Joe Barnes makes the best style he could make here, as it turned out. The 2 defensive tackles open up to the outside. Berriman took about 2 steps back. Doug Smith, number 53, just came out, screened Berriman out of the picture, and Barnes walked into the end zone. But just a great play. You couldn't draw it any better on the board if you wanted to.
What a clever call to make at that point. After the long gainer, the 10-yard line, Ottawa completely fooled by it. And now Don Sweet will attempt to make it a 7-point touchdown. He has done just that. And the Montreal Alouettes have a 12-point lead of 21-9. 11 minutes and 28 seconds to play in the 4th quarter of the Eastern Final from Lansdowne Park. We'll be right back.
This is the James Dixon Memorial Trophy. This is what they're playing for this afternoon. It will go, of course, to the winning team, the Eastern Conference champion for 1978. Montreal first won it in 1919. They'd like to do it again this year. Okay, Chef.
All right, Doug Philpott, an official with the Toronto Argonauts, holding that trophy. And I could say a lot of things.
I wasn't going to say anything right about that.
Green brought down a good tackle there at the 30-yard line by Phil Luke, number 51. Montreal, no question, you can see it. A fired-up football team right now with a 12-point lead of 21-9, 11:24 left.
And they know that this Ottawa offense has to put that ball in the air, so the front four gets a little easier for them now. They just have to watch occasionally for a screen and draw, but they're going to dig in and go after Tom Clements.
It was defense that got people thinking Montreal might be ready to challenge for the championship, the way they played against Ottawa in their last game, and against Hamilton. There's Murphy. A flag is thrown, a promising gain to the 46-yard line. We'll see if it stands on the penalty marker. Randy Rhino, number 21, made the stop. And this, I believe, is going to be the first penalty of the day in terms of yardage marched off against Ottawa. It is.
Well, Tom Clements going with the draw play, and that's what the offense or the defensive line is going to have to watch for. The Ottawa offensive line called for holding instead of being a big gain. It gives them the 1st and 20 situation, making it more difficult for George Brancato and his Rough Riders.
First down repeated, now 20 yards to go from the 20-yard line. reception in a big crowd and taken down at the 33 for a gain of 13 by Wally Bono. It'll be second down and 7. We'll keep an eye on that time for you. 10:35 left.
Well, Tony Gabriel in isolation goes down. Avery is out with him as well. And you can tell it's a broken pattern now where Tom Clements is scrambling around and Avery stepped in front of Gabriel to make the reception. Should never be that close together on a pass pattern unless it's broken.
Sidelines, Avery out of bounds, 40-yard line. Could have the first down now. A penalty marker has been thrown late. It would appear to be unnecessary roughness as Tom Clements was taken down heavily.
Well, and Jim Coote, number 60, the outstanding offensive lineman in the East, and the awards coming up this week, is slow getting up and coming back to that huddle.
It is unnecessary roughness against Montreal. First down, Ottawa. They accept the penalty up to midfield.
Well, again on isolation, we've got the right guy, number 18, Avery, and he will step in bounds. The Montreal club complaining that maybe he was out of bounds, but he had that 1 foot down, and that's all you need in the CFL.
Well,
plenty of room.
Even so, it was the penalty that got to the midfield as they chose it over the gain, and so it's first down from the 54-yard line. Avery going right, Clarkson left. A long history between these teams. Montreal with an edge on the record and on this day. Clements for Stenerson. Almost in the dirt. He picked it off.
Now, don't count this Ottawa club out because Tom Clements now is starting to throw that ball. The Alouette defense playing with a little caution out there now. And he's continuing to throw that short stuff, not trying to get all at one time. And there's still lots of time left in this ballgame.
An Ottawa touchdown on this drive would set up a tremendous finish for the fans here and the fans across the country. We hope you're enjoying it on CBC television. Everybody's covered. It is tipped and almost picked off. A second chance for Stenerson to gather it in. Zapek was there defending. And it's going to go back to the 38-yard line. Second down.
Now, George Brancano a little concerned out there, but it appeared that Clements might have picked the wrong person that time. He looked to throw the ball to Avery in a crowd, but Peter Stenerson, number 23, was wide open, not too far away from where Avery was.
Avery and Gabriel right. Stenerson now moves left. Clements with a lot of time now gets the rush. And the pass, Avery can't bring it in. As he went up, Wally Bono was there to give the defensive coverage for the Alouettes. And the Riders have got an injured player back of the line of scrimmage. It appears to be their center, number 64, Don Smith, in obvious pain at this time. We have 8 minutes, 35 seconds on the board here in official time and a 21-9 Montreal lead in the fourth quarter.
Well, as they work on Don Smith out there, the Alouette defense happy for a little breather out there. They had extreme pressure put on them during that drive by the Ottawa Football Club. And that ball was thrown to Avery, and he did have the opportunity to catch it. He couldn't quite hang on to it as Buono jumped in and hit him.
While we await for the treatment administered to Don Smith, a reminder that Grey Cup Day begins on CBC television Sunday with the pregame live from Exhibition Stadium at 11:30. Ernie F. Paganis will be your host with his entertaining and informative feature. It looks at all the aspects of the great Canadian Classic and the great week of entertainment and type coming up in Toronto. Of course, Fred Dobbs is going to be there, adding his impressions to the Grey Cup pregame. Rusty old Fred, that's on CBC next Sunday morning, followed, of course, by the Grey Cup game. Smith being helped to his feet now.
Well, watch the center here, Don Smith, number 64. He gets the ball up there, and on the left of the frame, it'll come in here now as he sort of goes down and gets hit. And that's probably where the injury happened, and they're helping him out slowly. He seemed to be going back into his pass protection position in a rather awkward position, and maybe just caught a cleat in that dirt down there because I'm sure the field is a little soft down there in the middle where they're playing right now.
The Riders are left in a 3rd and 10 situation from the 38-yard line. J.T. Hay has the wind behind him, and if he attempts a field goal here, it'll come from around the 45-yard line.
Don, with the sun going down, it appears the wind has died down just a little bit. It doesn't seem to be quite as bad as it was earlier in the game.
Hay is 0 for 3, Russ. He's missed from 40, 50, and 42. Jim Coode will snap the ball back to Jerry Kunick with Don Smith out to the sidelines. Hay, long, but offline. Rhino is going to just trot back, kill a few more seconds, and then concede the single point. It makes the score 21-10 as Hay disconsolately walks away with an 0 for 4 record today.
And these fans a little upset about the situation that he is not hit on 4 attempts this afternoon. And certainly a little pressure, and let's go down to Don Whitman.
The Alouettes were quite fortunate, I think, in one respect, that Ottawa did have that injury because it enabled Randy Rhino to run over to the bench. There was some discussion as to what they would do if the field goal was wide, and Jerry DiTilio was trying to impress upon Joe Scannella the importance of just giving up the single point. He said they still need a touchdown and more to catch up to us, even with that single point.
That was John O'Leary for 7 of the 45-yard line. Yes, it'll be a risky move right there to try to run the ball back, because on a long field goal that is missed from the 38-yard line, they get the ball right there. So it's advantageous to give the single point up with this score of 21-10 now, Montreal. O'Leary again will have the first down. He gets 5, needed 3 at the 50-yard line.
Well, there's no question that the Ottawa defense is going to have to stop this running attack of the Alouettes if they're going to have any hope of success this afternoon, because with 11-point difference, they have to get the ball. And with the score, the Alouettes 21 and the Ottawa Rough Riders 10.
Back at Lansdowne Park now with just 7 minutes left in this regulation time football game. Don Smith getting up, testing his right knee. He was wearing a brace on at the start, a small brace, so it's obviously an aggravation of an earlier injury.
Here is David Green getting out for about 4 yards, and that's been the pattern. 4, 5, 6, 7 yards. Green, O'Leary here as Montreal sticks to the ground effectively in the 4th quarter. Larry Cates made that tackle. 6 minutes and 40 seconds. That is the time remaining for the Ottawa Rough Riders to mount a comeback as they trail 21-10. Green can't find room in one spot, so he lunges across to another for an extra couple of yards, but it'll leave the Alouettes short by about 3 of the first down from the Ottawa 53-yard line. Mike Panucci, Brian Hedges with the tackles. And with the win, the Riders really haven't succeeded in doing very much. Again, a tribute to the Montreal defense, as it was to Ottawa's defense when Montreal got just 3 points when they had the win in the 3rd quarter.
And also, Don, for the offense, who has maintained possession of this ball for quite a bit of this last quarter and a half.
That time of possession will likely show an advantage for Montreal, certainly in this 4th quarter, Russ. Sonny Wade down to Larry Cates, 20-yard line. That's all. So the Riders will start deep with 5:46 remaining now, trailing by 11. The ball at their 21-yard line. Clements for Gabriel, and a good catch with 4 Alouettes all over him. That's why Tony Gabriel has been a double nominee again in the Shenley Award final balloting.
Play on isolation. Tony Gabriel running that flat pattern we talked about where they opened the game with this. Burrow made the attempt at the interception and knocked it down, but if he'd missed that ball and Gabriel had turned upfield, he might have gone a long way with that. And at this stage of a ball game, you question the value of a defensive back making that type of play. You've got to make sure the tackle.
Third down, Koenig. Pumps it out to Rhino. Randy Rhino to the 53-yard line of Montreal. Takes an 8-yard return with 4 minutes and 35 seconds left now on a 36-yard punt by Koenig. It has been Clements all the way. Will George Brancato, out of desperation, go to Condredge Holloway the next time the Riders have the ball? Well, we'll wait for that. Right now, we'll see if Montreal can continue to kill the time and control the football with their offensive team. David Green. Mike Raines was looking for him and got him. At the line of scrimmage, there'll be no gain.
Well, the play just a little slow developing. Green not getting off the mark, and Mike Raines coming down the line from his defensive position was able to hold him to practically no gain.
Holloway, there he is, the hood up on the cape at the Ottawa bench.
He doesn't look like he's getting ready to come in and play.
Not in the least. This is Clements' game, it would appear. There's your story. There's your time. 4:02 remaining. John O'Leary out to the 50-yard line. Has 7. Larry Cates took him down. 3 short of the first down. Third down coming up. So the Montreal punting team, led by Sonny Wade, will come in and give the ball to Ottawa.
Don, you just get the impression that this running game of the Alouettes throughout the afternoon has worn this defense of the Ottawa club down somewhat, and they're maybe not ready to contain them now, even though they did hold them there to a third down situation. O'Leary bounced off a couple of tackles.
Good punt by Wade. Drives Nelms back to his 3-yard line. A flag has been thrown. 2 of them as Nelms gets out to the 10. Zapek and Burrow contained him there. But 2 penalty markers for, I think, 2 different infractions. They came a couple of seconds apart, have been thrown. That was a 47-yarder by Sonny Wade.
And that was into the so-called wind early in this game that is not as difficult at this stage, and Ottawa's chances of taking advantage of the wind situation are minimized a little bit now.
You're right, that wind is not the factor it was certainly earlier in this game. The first half certainly, and not even the third quarter by comparison. It's the chance you take when you make the selection to begin the half. So there's a rough play call going against the Ottawa Rough Riders and against Montreal. And play resumes right after this. A touchdown and field goal and single, better than the Ottawa Rough Riders with just over 3 minutes to play. Clements from the goal area to Peter Stennerson over to the 30-yard line with a good first tackle by Randy Rhino. Stopped him right there. Riders with some breathing room now out at the 32. First down.
Well, there's no question. Clements going to throw that ball up in the air quite a few times now. Peter Stennerson just ran a curl over the middle about 20 yards deep, making the first down, getting him out from the goal line area.
Gabriel brought it down, lost the ball. It goes. Let's see.
They're ruling it as an incomplete pass. He never did have possession there, and he's glad of that call right now.
Gabriel incomplete.
He got his hands on it, appeared to bring it in, and then lost it again as Jim Burrow gets up slowly.
Good call, Chevy. That ball was bouncing in his hands. He never had full control of it.
That was it, Tom. Burrow a little shaky as he leaves with 2:38 remaining.
And Larry Utek, number 8, will replace him. Tony Gabriel tipping that ball, as you said, Tom, never having complete possession. That's an incomplete pass.
And 2nd and 10 from the 32. Sideliner, Avery makes his cut inside. 52-yard line. First down, the drive continues. But George Brancato's a worried man now because the clock is against him with 2.5 minutes left. The 20-yard gain that time. The Alouettes know, of course, as the entire country does, what to expect right now, and that's a consistent aerial attack from Tom Clements.
And that's why John Olenchuk has gone in to replace Gord Judges to play the fourth linebacker spot and try and stop this aerial assault.
Adding to their pass coverage. Here's the charge. Down he goes in the sack. It was Gabriel Gregoire, Glenn Weir, and Junior R.U. all in on him.
And that's the secret. All three defensive linemen, a three-man rush, were right there around the quarterback. Gregoire making the sack, but all three of them involved. That's been the name of the game for this Montreal defense, especially in this second half where they've come up big and held this Ottawa offense to one single point.
Just 2 minutes remaining now. Avery. Open time and time again on this series. Met by number 41, John Olenchuk, the man who came in to add to the pass coverage as an extra linebacker.
He's very close to that first down. He might be just a few inches short as that gain for 16 yards is very close to the first down, but they're going to measure it. This will give the Ottawa team a chance to regroup.
From over here, looks like he has it, Russ, but on this natural turf, anything can happen by the time they get the chain out to the middle.
You never know how those lines are.
Look at that.
Close.
It is close. It is the first down. Tom, the eyes haven't failed you yet.
First down from the 48.5-yard line.
Tom Clements just looking for Avery all the way, coming over the middle, and the Montreal defense satisfied to try and give them the short ones. Not too many, though.
They've got to hurry. 1:40 left. Drop, Murphy fumbled, Holmes fumbled the ball, but got it back. So they lose two right there.
Well, rather a funny call for this late in the ball game, trying to run that ball.
Knocked away. Burrow covering, along with Tony Proudfoot on Peter Stennerson. Third down and 12. Ottawa's last gasp could be right here with 1:27 left. They trail by 11 at 21-10. And George Brancato's manner describes the feeling here in Ottawa right now.
The entire Ottawa bench.
Early movement could be outside Montreal. That is tipped away. Rhino. Burrow getting their hands on it. It's going to be up to the penalty markers now to decide whether or not they keep the ball, and it's offside Montreal, so Ottawa will keep the ball. Gabriel, however, was open on this play.
Well, Tony Gabriel is coming back now, trying to get into the open, was wide open, and he's a little disappointed right now that you didn't throw the ball to me, but the Montreal Alouettes were offside, giving Ottawa one more chance with a 3rd and 7 situation.
1:17 remaining. R.U. does not get him. Into the middle. It is complete off the Montreal player. Murphy.
I can't believe this one.
All the way down to the 3-yard line. With exactly a minute left.
Well, if you watch NFL football, this reminds you of Franco Harris when he picked one off one time for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but here's a desperation pass. Clements gets away from Ayu, has nowhere to throw this ball except, hey, let's throw it downfield because it's the end of the game. It went up like a wounded duck in the middle of the winter, and it tipped off two different players. Number 37, Perry, the last Montreal player to touch it, and it took a great effort by Burrow, number 16, to drag Murphy down before he scored.
From the 3-yard line, 50 seconds left. Good coverage by Vernon Perry on Ross Clarkson.
Well, you know if they score here, we're going to have a short kickoff, and Ottawa does it as well as anybody does. And they'd have to go probably for a 2-point conversion.
That would bring them within 3.
If I was J.T. Hay, I might be hoping they won't score.
He's not had a good day. 0 for 4, Hay. Second down. Using up a lot of time. It is knocked away again in the end zone. Once more by Vernon Perry. And we have 35 seconds left. 35. Third down coming up.
Well, from the end zone, you can play quarterback, and the pressure was not there initially, but finally, the pressure does come from Zapek, number 76. And Clemens threw that ball up dangerously for Perry to make the interception. And now they got third.
They got a Murphy, and he takes it into the draw play. 21-16. We have 31 seconds remaining.
Well, I'll tell you, that's some kind of call when you got a 3rd and 3 situation from the 3-yard line and you throw the draw play at them. I'm sure the Montreal Alouettes were not expecting that play in any way, shape, or form. That's even a better call, a more gutsy call than that quarterback draw of Barnes's.
Well, there'll be no pressure on J.T. Hay right here because the Riders give every indication that they are going for the 2-point conversion.
And then if they can get the short kickoff back and make one completion, they might be able to kick a field goal.
Don't go away. Oh, he didn't get in. Did not get in the end zone. Gabriel looks up in disbelief, but did not cross the goal line. The score remains 21-16. And now, that big play by the Montreal defense means that if the Riders do get their hands on the ball, only a touchdown will win it for them.
Well, a 2-point conversion attempt. Gabriel, number 1 receiver in the East, goes downfield. The completion is there, but he just does not get into the end zone. As number 25, Bruce Taylor, the new defensive back, comes up and makes the hit. And it was just the way Gabriel fell, actually, that he did not cross the goal line. He fell almost parallel to the goal line, just a few inches away from the 2 points.
In 31 seconds of playing time, the Edmonton Eskimos will officially know the name of their opponents for the Grey Cup game next Sunday afternoon in Toronto. It's been a tremendous afternoon of football here in Ottawa. And this drama is continuing right down to the final 31 seconds as Hay will place the ball the 45-yard line to attempt a short kickoff.
And where will he kick it? Normally it's a little chip shot over to the left here, and they've got Tony Gabriel lined up over here to try and tip that ball out of bounds. And there'll be a little movement in that group too before the ball is kicked. Here we go.
Now they shift. Here it is.
That's
it. It was not J.T. Hay at all.
It was number 53, Brian Hedges, who actually tried to kick that ball the other way. And with all the success the Ottawa Football Club has had in hitting that little chip shot to this left-hand side, number 53, Brian Hedges, goes up. And it's very difficult to kick the ball like that when it has the lean on it. That was there in an attempt to fool the Montreal receiving team that it was going to be the regular chip shot, because you don't get a great deal of the ball to kick when it's leaning back like that. So Montreal takes over.
Went 3 yards and out of bounds. And Montreal's option, of course, is to take it right there. In fact, they mark it at just a yard of the 46-yard line. 31 seconds still left. And the mood of the Ottawa football fans here about as dark as this twilight sky right now. Of course, still grounded. That's the percentage play. Joe Barnes ended the first half that way, and indications are he will use all the time at his disposal and end the game this way.
Well, Joe Barnes just kneeling down. If I was him, I'd move back a little bit further, because the way they're going to be shoving and pushing in there with this last 30 seconds, somebody could fall on him and twist an ankle or hurt that knee of his. So it means nothing to move back another 2 or 3 yards before you kneel down.
There they are, a nice, tightly knit little group. Barnes takes a few more seconds to go back, and he kneels down. And now some hostilities are exchanged as the frustration of the Ottawa players, which is natural, begins to mount to a boiling point at this point. With just 6 seconds left, they can do nothing about it. They have lost the Eastern Final. With these ground plays, of course, the time will commence at the referee's discretion right now, not at the snap of the ball.
There's a lot of penetration here, and the clock is running out, but there's a lot of shoving and pushing in there, a lot of emotion.
Here it is, fans on the field, no time on the clock. Joe Barnes grounds it, and you've got Montreal and Edmonton for the 4th time in 6 years in the Grey Cup game of 1979. The Montreal Alouettes, an injury-filled season at the outset, have come back to get it all together with a tremendous ball control display by their offense and a great showing by their defense to beat the first-place team in the East this year, the Ottawa Rough Riders, 21-16.
And there was a lot of concern all this week in Ottawa about this team, whether they could rise to the occasion, having lost that last league game in Montreal to the Alouettes after beating them 3 successive times earlier in the season. And all of a sudden, this Montreal club has kept their game plan together, has put it all together offensively, and I think the ball control game actually won it for them, Don. I think they wore down that Ottawa defense.
Joe Scudella, in his first year as head coach, will take his team into a Grey Cup, as his predecessor, Marv Levy, had done on 3 previous occasions.
Very jubilant Alouette club going off the field. Very dejected Ottawa club will be going into their dressing room because they had such a great year. George Brancato been coaching here for some time, looking forward to going to the Grey Cup for the 2nd time in 3 years. Unfortunately, this group from Montreal came up with a very big occasion. Big group, big game.
And a happy lot they are. We'll have more from the winners in just a few moments. But the game is over, and the final score in the Eastern Final is Montreal 21, the Ottawa Rough Riders 16. Well, there have got to be some happy people in Montreal and those elsewhere who are fans of the Montreal Alouettes. And I know, having just come back from Edmonton this past week, that perhaps in the minds of many out there, certainly the Eskimo football team, they'll enjoy nothing better than a chance for revenge at the expense of Montreal after what happened to the Eskimos at the Olympic Stadium on that icy field late November 1 year ago, Russ.
Well, I think that's something that the Edmonton fans will enjoy and the players will enjoy, because you basically have 2 same ball clubs that played last year. The Alouettes humiliated the Edmonton Eskimos. That's about the only way you could put it. And you know that those Edmonton Eskimos are going to get ready to play the Alouettes. But it's a credit to the Alouette Football Club. They've had a tough season. They've had a lot of injuries offensively as well as defensively. The defensive injuries were not talked about as much. Defensively in that secondary, Dickie Harris, one of the best in the country in my opinion, was out for some time. He's gone now with a broken arm. Perry, who had an outstanding game this afternoon, was out for a long time. Proudfoot had the broken arm for some time, and they stuck together. They put it all together. They maintained their poise, and under all that duress and with the quarterback problems, they're here and they're going to go to the Grey Cup. So I think it's a great credit goes to the group of guys who won this afternoon and the coaching staff who held them together and found the replacements necessary for short periods of time.
And to people like Jerry DiTilio, who had to quarterback the Alouette team and did so very well while Barnes and Wade were hurt. But they're all back now and ready for the Grey Cup. Well, we're going to now look yesterday in retrospect to see how the Eskimos beat Calgary in that tremendous Western Final and won the right to play Montreal. Highlights now of the Western Final.
The clubs have traded field goals as we pick up action in the second quarter. Wilkinson at quarterback for Edmonton tries to hit Waddell Smith, but Ray Odom steps in front to intercept. And Odom's returned it all the way for the game's first major score. With the convert good, the Stampeders led in the football game 10-3. Near the end of the half, penalties gave the Eskimos new life. This pass took them inside the 5-yard line. And it comes as no surprise that Jim Germany gets the call. He's in. Point after was good. So on the tail of this play, the Stamps and the Eskimos welcomed halftime. A moment or two to thaw out from the bitter cold, deadlock at 10-10. Calgary's Cyril McFall gave Stampeders the lead 13-10. We swing to the third quarter. It was starting to look like a seesaw battle, but then Wilkinson, who started slow, kicked into high gear. In this play, he caught flanker Tom Scott. Wilkinson next tried another pass to Scott. It was no good. He tried to hit Warrington. Again, no good. But a costly offside by Calgary kept the drive alive, and Jim Germany had his second touchdown of the day. This proved to be the game's key sequence as Edmonton went in front 17-13, and they could have stopped right there. But they didn't. Watch their defense on this next sequence of plays. Hofnagel to Sykes. But Sykes is hammered by 3 tacklers and coughs up the ball at his own 29-yard line. It was here that the Stampeders seemed to fall apart. Calgary coach Jack Gotta assessed the game this way. He said Edmonton's defense played well, as you can see here, and we just didn't have enough offensively. Wilkinson couldn't capitalize on the situation, however, and Dave Cutler made it 2 for 2. Edmonton had a converted touchdown lead, 20-13. The Stampeders continued to falter, taking penalties as the clock ticked away. 7:20 left now. Hofnagel, the victim of a big rush, and Greg Butler picks it off. Again, Edmonton failed to turn it into a major score, and Cutler's third field goal made it 23-13. This next play looks more like volleyball. It was intended for Willie Burden, up in the air into the hands of Dan Kepley. And Cutler's fourth straight field goal, 26-13. They go to the Grey Cup.
And so the Eskimos won their way to the Grey Cup yesterday, and their defense, as it turned out in the fourth quarter especially, did it for them against the Calgary Stampeders. The only track record of 1978 between Montreal and Edmonton was the game we televised across the country October 1st, Russ, from the Olympic Stadium, and the Alouettes certainly had their injury problems that day. The Eskimos rolled by them rather easily, 44-22.
And that was our good friend David Green's first effort, too, in that particular ball game, and weren't too impressed with him. But the coaching staff of the Montreal Alouettes must have seen something, because he's got better as he's come along since that October 1st ball game. And I don't think that particular game is any indication of what we're going to see next Sunday.
Not by any stretch of the imagination. Here's how they compared today with the Ottawa Rough Riders, as expected, mounting a big passing attack, nearly 300 yards. And in terms of net offense, they also outdistanced the Ottawa Rough Riders in Montreal's ground game, and their control of the ball, especially in the fourth quarter, was the big factor, with John O'Leary and principally David Green doing much of the work for this Montreal football team to take some pressure off their defense, because they simply didn't have their defense on the field as much in that fourth quarter as the Ottawa Rough Riders would have liked, certainly. So you see an Ottawa team, and it happens time and time again in the East, where first place doesn't necessarily guarantee you a thing. It guarantees you home field for a final game. When you face a team as hot and as prepared and now injury-free as the Alouettes were, it can be a very upsetting story.
Well, Don, I think the game plan was rather important as well, with the Montreal Alouettes coming in here and deciding they were going to run the ball. But even though they did run the ball very successfully, they did throw the ball at times that helped their offense. And late in that third quarter, Peter Della caught a pass. He was in against Fox, who had Ron Fox, number 78, in a man-to-man situation. And Fox had been taken out of the ball game with leg problems earlier in this ball game a couple of times. And Della came across the middle. Fox was forced to go with him all the way, and unfortunately couldn't keep up to him. In the fourth quarter, Barnes really put the icing on the cake with a little fake to Green in there. And Gaddis ran the same pass we showed at halftime that he caught in between the two defensive backs. This time, in between number 32, Cates, and number 17, Tosh. Playing a zone defense, put the pressure on them. Barnes got outside and made the perfect toss to him in between the two defensive backs. And then the play that really worked well, the two defensive tackles, Hedges and Raines taken to the outside. Smith, the center, came out on Berriman, number 41, the middle linebacker, who had just taken a step or two back, and Barnes carried it into the end zone for that touchdown early in the fourth quarter that really put the pressure on the Ottawa offense and also on the Ottawa defense to keep them from moving the ball.
In case you missed it early, Bill Dell, the referee, had to leave this game today and had to be replaced finally. He gave it a few plays to try to get his leg back into proper condition, but couldn't. So I don't know what the assignments are for Grey Cup, but it's a tough break. It might have cost Bill Dell an officiating start in the Grey Cup game. And yet this game was not penalty marred. The officials didn't have to intervene all that much. Almost a penalty-free football game to be decided by these two outstanding teams on the field today.
Don, there weren't that many penalties, and it came down to the last few minutes of this ball game that were very exciting. You just didn't ever think the ball game was over, and the Ottawa club never did really give up. And one of the big catches late in this ball game with a little over a minute to go, Murphy makes a great catch here as Clemens tries to go down to the right side to Tony Gabriel. Instead, he had to come back to the left. He outran Junior Ayew, jumping like he's going over the bars, and threw it up for grabs. It was desperation, 3rd and 10 situation. The ball is tipped finally by Perry, number 8 UTEC. Murphy's there to pull it in, and just a great play by Burroughs, number 16, runs him down at the 2-yard line. And it was this situation that set up the great exciting finish that we really did have. Because on the 3rd down and 3 situation with 35 seconds remaining, Clements went to a draw play to Murphy. I'm sure no one in the ballpark expected it. He went in untouched, went in, moved the ball along. They did not make the 2-point conversion where Tony Gabriel was hit about a foot from the goal line, and then they tried that short kickoff that didn't work for them. But it led to a very exciting finish, and I think, as you mentioned just before when we saw those 2 Murphy plays, the officials helped make the game very exciting. They were very good today, and there were really no complaints about any of the calls.
If you want to use a baseball scorecard at home for that pass that was tipped around, I think it was scored 5-6-4-3.
37-8 to 30 or something.
All right, let's go down now and join Don Whitman.
Okay, Chevy, we're in the dressing room of the champion Montreal Alouettes, Junior Ayew. Last year I saw you at the Grey Cup dumping champagne over everybody. You're kind of subdued so far this year.
I don't know, I was just going to do that to you.
No,
but,
not again. You did it last year.
I don't drink, so I'll let you have a sip of mine.
Can I have a little sip?
Sure, you can have it. It's all yours.
I'll hang on to this. Tom McKee over in the corner is yelling for some. I'll hang on to it. Junior, that was quite a ball game, a great defensive struggle.
It was a great game all the way, I think, for both teams. They were strong, but we came on strong when we had to. And I'm just happy to be here. I'm just happy. I'm grateful and thankful to the Lord to give me this talent that I'm able to be here. I'm very thankful to be here.
From your own personal standpoint, the year started rather slowly for you. You had some difficulties with injury, but you came on very strongly towards the end of the year.
Well, I had a very bad groin pull, and it hindered my play in the beginning of the year. But now that it's healed completely, I feel like I can do what I'm capable of doing, and I'm just thankful to the Lord that He's given me this opportunity.
Junior Ayew, congratulations. I'll leave this bottle of champagne with you. Move over to Wally Buono. Over. You want me to take it? Okay. Wally Buono, a great game. You fellas really played well. Defense was, again, a key for you.
Well, I think the whole team was a key. The offense did a great job, and Sonny had some great kicks, and Don made some clutch field goals, and the special teams were just great. I think the last 4 or 5 games we've come as a team, and I think that was the story of this year for us. I got one more thing. I want to say hi to my wife and baby and my in-laws in Washington.
I think you've covered all territories. I'll lend you a dime if you want to make a phone call. Wally, in the ball game today, a lot of people felt that the momentum of 3 straight wins coming in here would be on your side. Was that a factor?
Well, I think it was. Like I say, we've been playing better and better every game, and football is a game of momentum, and they kept with us. And like I say, our offense just did a great job of moving the ball, and our defense came up big when they had to. And we got to give credit to Ottawa. They had a great season, and they're a great bunch of football players. It was a close game. Another break for them, and they might have won.
Are you looking forward to a rematch, Montreal and Edmonton in the Grey Cup?
We're looking forward to it. They beat us pretty bad, and like I say, we all got a lot of pride in ourselves and in our team, and we'll give it a good go.
Okay, Wally Buono, let's now go over to the trophy presentation where the James Dixon Trophy is being presented and officially christened by Carl Crennel. And Carl, I'm going to sneak in here and talk to the middle linebacker, Carl Crennel. Carl. Carl, another great defensive effort by the Alouettes.
Yeah, right. Total team effort, offensively and defensively. We're underdogs coming into the game about 6 points, but we ourselves knew as individuals that we could get them, and we played hard for 4 quarters. Everybody hustled. We made a couple of mistakes, but in the end, we got them 21-6. So we're pretty happy. We're going to the Grey Cup, and now we have to get... now we have to get ready for Edmonton. You know, Edmonton's the number 1 team in the leading offense, I guess, in the whole league. So it should be a very great game next week. You know, we're going to do our best to win.
Carl, one particular drive that Ottawa had going in the first half, Coach Scannella was a little concerned. He was coming over, giving you a lot of instructions. What adjustment did you have to make?
I guess basically he just told us to get together, you know.
That stuff burns when it gets in your eyes, doesn't it?
Yeah, it certainly does. It was, they were just, Clements was rolling, throwing the quick out, you know, very hard pass to cover, and they were taking advantage of it and driving up and down the field, you know, a couple of draws here and there. But we hung in there and didn't let them score that many points, and we got it back together, you know, and our offense played super, controlled the ball for something like 10 minutes one quarter, about 8 or 9 the other quarter, and scored when they had to score. So overall, great day for us. You know, happy to be in another Grey Cup.
Carl, congratulations again. Let's grab Joe Barnes. Joe, could we get you over here for a moment? Joe Barnes, congratulations. A tremendous win. Joe, that quarterback draw you called that scored the touchdown, had you seen something that enabled you to set that up?
Yeah, last game we played them, we noticed that once we got inside our 10-yard line, they like to blitz our outside linebackers, and you know, it puts the middle linebacker and the free safety and man-to-man coverage on our backs. So what we thought we'd do, we just split our backs, try to get the middle to open up, and run our quarterback draw up the middle.
Well, that was certainly an effective play, and one that really gave you an advantage because it put you in a position where they had pretty well to get 2 touchdowns.
That's right. You know, like I say, when we got ahead 21-9 or 21, whatever it was, then our defense was playing well, and we felt like we had we established our running game, and we were taking it to them, and we felt like they had to come up with some big plays to win the game.
You've got that brace on your knee. Did it stand up pretty well? You didn't really take that much punishment. I don't think you were able to avoid it most times.
Well, it's amazing. Our trainer designed this brace, Dan Dybert, and matter of fact, he's got a patent on it, and he's got it being manufactured there in Montreal, and that's kind of a type of brace that just keeps my knee from giving out and keeps it together. And I've worn it for the last 4 games, I guess, and it's kept me together.
Is this something you're going to have to wear permanently to play?
Well, I hope not. I hope maybe I've just got a torn cartilage, and hopefully that surgery.
Does it restrict your movement at all?
Well, I'm not as quick as I used to be, but hopefully that surgery can correct it in the off season.
Well, your arm certainly didn't require any surgery. You were 10 for 13 in the passing department. That was an impressive afternoon in throwing the ball.
Well, our guys just got open and made some good catches. Bobby Gaddis, was getting in behind their defense, and he's having to break his patterns a couple of times, and had to scramble around a little bit, but we didn't really have to throw the ball that much. And anytime you get your running game going and not have to use the pass, like I said, we didn't have a turnover today, and that's something you can cut out and you usually win the game.
You're looking forward to a rematch with the Eskimos?
Yeah, they handled us pretty good there in Montreal earlier in the season, and of course I'm sure they're looking forward to playing us after what we did to them last year in the Grey Cup. Now it'll be an interesting Grey Cup.
Joe Barnes, congratulations, a fine performance. Gordon Judges, come on in here. Congratulations, Gordy. Defense was the key this afternoon once again for the Alouettes, as it has been for much of the year.
Yeah, well, I also thought that our offensive line and our running attack did a heck of a job in the second half. I felt that Ottawa had the momentum at the end of the second half, but we just came out and out-physicaled them in the second half. And defense, we got the quarterback on the run, and our secondary did a really good job of plastering their receivers, while the quarterback was running.
You came into this game with 3 straight victories. Obviously, at the bench before the game, there seemed to be a certain air of optimism prevailing.
No, we felt confident. Yes, we felt confident. I think that the last regular season game in the Big O against Ottawa really helped their confidence because they had beaten us in 3 close games previous to that, and that gave us the confidence that we could beat them. And we finally got all our injured players back together. We adjusted to the new coaching staff, and one thing about these guys, when it comes around to playoff time, everybody gets greedy, and we all came up with a big effort.
It was a difficult kind of year for you people. I'm sure you must have been wondering when it would all end with those quarterbacks going down. Yes. It seemed like 1 or 2 at least every game for the first half dozen games.
Well, I'll tell you, our quarterback showed a lot of courage this year. Joe Barnes playing with a torn cartilage in his knee, wearing a big brace on his knee. He ran for a touchdown with it. And Sonny Wade, of course, he had the knee operation and the broken ribs, came back. I think that's the character you need to have a championship team. And, we regained our Eastern Conference championship, and I thought that, the quarterbacks had a lot to do with it.
Gordon Judges, congratulations, and we'll look forward to seeing you next weekend in the Grey Cup. We'll be back to the Alouette dressing room in just a moment, but first let's go upstairs to Don Chevrier.
All right. Well, Russ, the question now becomes, what kind of a Grey Cup game do you expect between these two teams? We have a wide range of history. We had a 9-8 game, 41-7 game, all kinds of weather factors, too, have taken place. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's difficult to speculate right now what type of game we'll have, depending on injuries from both sides once we've got over today's game and the thrill of winning. But I would think after seeing Montreal today, they're probably going to go in with the same type of game plan. They're going to control the ball, try not to make mistakes. And it was interesting to hear Joe Barnes say, very importantly, we didn't have a turnover. And I think when you get in sudden death football games like today and like next Sunday, that wins football games for you. So I would look to Montreal to do what they did today. Throw as little as they have to. And as long as they can stay close or get ahead, then they're not going to have to throw the ball as happened today. As far as the Edmonton team is concerned, I think they work on the pass. It's Wilkie's offensive weapon. Look for them to nickel and dime you to death with that short passing game. So I think we can look for them to stay consistent with what we saw in the two final games, the one yesterday in Edmonton and the one here in Ottawa. So that's what I look for, although I've been wrong before.
Well, haven't we all? With Dickie Harris gone, injured for Montreal. Montreal used Bruce Taylor, the new defensive back, today. They will work on him, and they'll finally decide the defensive secondary lineup that is best suited to counter Tom Wilkinson and company. Okay, let's go back downstairs now.
Okay, Don, and we have with us Glenn Weir. It's becoming an annual visit with Glenn Weir and myself. Some boys from southwestern Ontario. Glenn, you were telling me that you're pretty doggone tired right now.
Well, yeah, the fourth quarter, Tommy was running around like a madman back there. We were just, getting pooped out chasing him is what was happening. 5 more minutes, it might have been dangerous.
Well, you certainly did the job.
Oh, well, hopefully, turned out all right for us, and just glad to be here going to Toronto next week.
I think Joe Scannella was in as tough a spot as anybody could have been coming into this 1978 season.
Yes, I think it was tough, but that's a challenge of coaching, and it's no different wherever you coach.
You go back and look at those days at St. John, Quebec, in training camp. Certainly you didn't anticipate all the adjustments and changes, injuries and problems that you were going to have this year.
No, I think that's true. You line up with a team, you figure that's going to be your team. And it never was. We never had our team, really, the way we originally planned it. And every time we made an adjustment, somebody did something good. And week after week, they did. I mean, there's a lot of guys you got to be thankful for that held us together.
Now, what about the final game of the season? At least that's one thing we can be sure of for next week.
The last game of the season's coming up, and I'm not going to think about it till tomorrow. I'm going to enjoy myself. I'm not a drinking man, but I may do some tonight.
Might do just a little bit. Thank you very much, Joe Scannella, head coach of the Montreal Alouettes, and our congratulations to all the players. And, of course, we will be on hand with our special CBC Grey Cup weekend, starting with our Grey Cup parade next Saturday. We'll also be with you with Grey Cup of the 1970s, a review of all those in the afternoon, and, of course, our pregame show in the Grey Cup game next Sunday. We'd like to see you then. I'm Tom McKee for Don Chevrier, Don Whitman, and Russ Jackson saying so long from Lansdowne Park in Ottawa.
Canadian Professional Football on CBC. Brought to you by Canadian Pacific. Owned by Canadians, working for Canadians. KTEL International. Specialists in household and leisure time products. Shell Canada Limited. Shell Health. Labatt's Breweries of Canada Limited. Brewers of Labatt's 50 Ale and Labatt's Blue.
Finally, the names of many of the people who helped produce CFL football on CBC from Eastern Canada this year.
This is CBC.